Anecdote.
I know, it's really bad.
But you could never tell that story again.
No,
No.
God, no, you had to be there
Yeah.
for the first telling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you tell him, Cat. Okay, let's
Oh wow.
Oh wow. Okay, let's see here. I'm just posting and getting people in. We are live. I already posted on my Discord. The cat's yelling at me. And I will have to use my phone because I can't. Can you get off of me, cat?
Nope.
I don't want to see your fuzzy balls. Go away.
Hello.
Howdy.
Kitty.
Okay, let's see. Opening the Twitch device. You too, cat. I said you too. And of course, we have to wait for people to sit through ads too.
Oh right. So your joke doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. What? Wow.
What were you thinking?
Ruined my joke. Like Amazon's done a lot of bad things,
But that's the worst.
but that's the worst.
Uh-huh. Mr. Bezos, I want an apology.
How dare you?
Okay, good.
Sir.
Somebody heard you say I don't want to see your fuzzy balls. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what you got, so.
Okay. Well, I got the thing open.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna and at this point how are we with audio? Can everyone hear us?
Yes, they said so.
I didn't see that.
Oh,
I mean, I guess they heard my talking about cat balls.
Yeah.
But how about Mena? Can you hear Mena?
You're clear as a bell. There you go.
Okay. How about Francita?
Hello.
Okay, I assume that everyone said yes. Okay. Well then, okay, everyone's very clear. That's a first.
Yay.
Jesus, that means bad things are gonna happen, doesn't it? Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, first off, slide. Oh shit, that's wrong.
What? No.
No. No, I am wrong because this is the one that I've got the presentation on.
Oh.
There we go. Okay, that's better.
There we
go. Woo. All right. How to get that drink out the way?
Cyrus. That's it. I could not parse the letters that I was looking at for a minute.
Oh, sure.
Cyrus, Bill. We're not going to read everybody's names, but it just occurred to me.
Yeah.
The other doc. That's Nightbot.
Yeah, that is Nightbot. That's right.
Yep.
Okay, so hi everyone.
Hi.
For those viewing at home, of whom there are a good number, howdy. We are Machine Age Productions, and this is our Monday show, Nuts and Bolts, during which we do two big things. For the first hour, or roughly, we talk about a thing. It's we take a point of discourse in the gaming sphere and we turn it into a discussion. We try to be discoursey about it.
No, we don't try to be discoursey about it. We actually try to talk about the situation.
Yeah, we actually try to learn things and develop and stuff, which is why we have 20 viewers and not 500.
Yeah. Dwam says, "Why is there a funky save button on the screen?" And that is funny. That's comedy.
Yeah, that is comedy. Um, we'll talk about the funky save button in a little
It's
bit.
a message. It's a message for me
Oh.
Yes, it's a
from
reminder.
Phil.
Oh, from Phil, yeah. He's telling you to hit save, right?
Mhm.
Somehow he got that into
Yeah,
Mena's slideshow.
And I should.
Oh, yeah, you made pretty things. You better save. Because otherwise you're fucked.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Here's something fun to do. Introduce yourself and say what you're working on right now.
Oh, geez. Okay, start with. I'll start. I guess.
You start.
Yeah, I'll start. So I'm Olivia Hill. You probably know me. If you don't, hi. I am a game designer. I obviously am working with Machine Age Productions because that's literally who we are right now. And currently, I am working on the intro text for the season 2 iHunt anthology of zines. Which is really cool. It's a whole fucking breakdown about how to do tiered stunt trees in iHunt. They're very free form, and there's a whole system for creating 3 tiers of progressively powerful stunts. So you can have a longer term advanced game where the characters really feel like they've grown into super super impressive ability. That's what I'm doing. Philomena, what are you doing?
I'm currently working on Flatpak Fix the Future. Refix the Future.
Refix the Future,
which
that's
is
right.
Coincidentally, a fate hack.
That's right, it is.
Of an older game of ours.
Yeah, called Flatpak Fix the Future.
That's right.
Yeah, but we're rebuilding it in Fate, which is really fucking cool. The other person who is on the call is Francita. Could you introduce yourself, Francita?
Hello, my name is Francita, and I represent the country of Chile, and I am working on the 1930s zine.
Yes.
Which is very exciting, and I'm just waiting for the 50s zine because oh my god, I'm going to have so much fun with that.
Yeah.
So the thing that she's working on, it's a guide to iHunt in the 1930s, which is super super cool, and it's really great because it's all written, everything. Philomena did most of the writing. I did a little bit of the writing, and we cleaned it up and everything, and then we send it over to Francita, and she does layout based on our art notes, and it's really cool because it's like Christmas all over again because every few minutes she sends us a work in progress, and we're like, ooh. And so that's what we're working on right now is the season 1 book, Flatpak, and the January iHunt zine.
That we can talk about.
Yeah, we're working on other things too, but those are the things that we're actively doing today. So, yeah, there we go. Pretty fucking cool, right?
Yeah.
And people are introducing themselves. We've got, let's see, the leader of Gorgonion. That's pretty cool.
Yes, the cats are here, Minotaur. That's right.
Oh yeah. The cats are here. Definitely, they're co-hosting.
So if you have cats in your vicinity and they start behaving strangely, know that it's our cat sending them secret messages.
And Dwam introduced himself. He's a Latin American designer working on his next Zine Quest project, doing art commissions and finishing his first game, Deep Nightly Fathoms, the stretch goals thereof. I love Deep Nightly Fathoms. It's
so
a very good game. Yep, you should absolutely get it. The
Wait.
cats are working on pissing us off.
I'm going to give them an olive and see if that helps.
Our cats love olives. It's very strange. But they do, so, that shuts them up. Okay, so let's see. So the two things that we do on these streams is the first thing is that we do a little bit of discourse discussion, like I was saying a moment ago. And then the second thing that we do is we break down some talk about games, game design, game playing, all of that type of shit. Basically, it's like a little presentation about how we do stuff. And first off, let me pull up. There's a Twitter thread that I need to pull up because of what it is.
No.
So the discourse today that we're going to be talking about is session 0. It was a big thing last week, but we're going to talk about it on our own terms because, we're curious what people think about it and, some pointers and things. And then after we're done talking about session 0, we're going to talk about playing Fate. Not how to pick up the game and start playing or whatever, but how to be a good player.
Sort of confidence mastery as far as that stuff goes.
Yeah. So, ironically, we didn't get any responses on the session 0 question.
Oh,
So I'm going to have to make shit up.
that's fair.
This looks like a job for making stuff up.
Hey, Liv.
Hey, Philomena.
What was that?
It sounds like someone knocked down something metal, but it doesn't sound like it was in our house.
No, it wasn't.
Like someone knocked down a cookie sheet in the neighbor's house.
Well, anyway. Mediterranean cats, that's right. Hey, Liv. What's session 0?
Session 0
Yeah.
is, originally it was a creepypasta, but then they turned it into a TV show that got mixed results, but I thought was overwhelmingly pretty good.
It's not session 0.
Yes, it is.
Channel 0 and
Oh.
it's Cavalcove. Okay, well, the only one you saw was Candle Cove.
Candle Cove, that's right.
Very, very good.
Yeah. Okay. So that's session 0.
No, that's not session 0.
There's puppets.
No,
Or wait, that's the Threshold Kids.
that's the Threshold Kids.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're thinking of session 9.
No, I'm thinking of Space Planet 9. Or Space Channel 9. No, I'm thinking of Plan 9.
Plan 9, that's it.
No, I'm thinking of Space Channel.
Got it. Okay, so session 0, channel 0, thank you. Session 0 is where you and a very large, Scandinavian person and a woman in a very tight corset terrorize people from space. Is that right? No, that's still Plan 9. God damn it.
Yeah, that's still Plan 9. No. I'm really thinking about Space Channel 9.
Okay.
I'm thinking
Children, please.
I'm thinking of a classic Dreamcast game, thank you.
If you give me from the chat, if you give me a can opener and a copy of Fate, how long will it take me to open it for session 0?
That's a good question, KTS. That depends on how long it takes you to learn the lesson.
And the lesson is, don't put up with stupid dads.
Yeah, basically. I think that's a good lesson.
Hey, Tina. How are you?
Tina's here glaring at us.
I wish this bit would be over.
What do you think session 0 is? What do you think that means? What does that sound like to you?
It's like a practice session, yeah?
Yeah?
Sort of, yeah. That's a good guess. So basically what a session 0 is, for those of you at home, I'm sure you've all heard the term. I don't know who coined the term, but it's been around for a long time. It's been a thing that I remember in old World of Darkness books, they talked about it and stuff. But I don't know where the term came from, what the first game was that used that term. But basically a session 0 is the session where you sit down with everyone and you make characters and you sort of build your whole thing. It's a thing that you do in role-playing games. You don't always have to. Some people like to just throw their characters together and stuff between sessions. They'll be like, oh, I'm going to run a game of whatever. Everyone come with a character. And that's kind of the old way of doing things. That's the way it used to be. Because there was a lot of book work and things. You'd be like, oh, we're going to play Shadowrun. So, it's going to be a 16-hour job to make your character. So, do that and come with a full character sheet. But then sort of in the more recent, as games started progressing more into toward story gaming, as the case may be, your World of Darknesses and stuff like that, they started encouraging groups to build the characters together. That way you could sort of tie in their backstories and their concepts, and you could really come up with a cohesive, cast of characters that make sense together. In the old days of like D&D, like classic D&D, you would just roll up your stats and use that to figure out what you were going to play, or you would pick what you were going to play and sort of, cater your stats to it. But the session zero idea is that you build these things together because you're sort of everyone should be involved. The classic style is more that like there's a GM and they plan everything in advance, and you come and you explore their world. So obviously a lot of us have moved on since then, but then like also we've grown session zero to more include things like discussing limits, discussing boundaries, discussing the type of things that you're going to have in your story, and that way everyone is comfortable and everyone is enjoying themselves. So that's like a thing. And yeah, that's the basics of session zero. Like I think that covers the foundation.
It was specifically called that in 2006 in Spirit of the Century.
Oh, Spirit of the Century. So hey, that's topical. That's a
it might have been in popular culture before that, but that's like a print in a game as a reference to it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, like I knew that Spirit of the Century had it, but I thought it came from a little bit before that. But that's the first that people can come up with. That's cool. I like that. Yeah. That's good, and that's really funny because that's a fake game, and
Hey, that's our wheelhouse.
That's our wheelhouse. That's a thing that we do. And yeah, so that's cool. Now.
So what's the that sounds fine. That sounds fine.
Yeah.
Why is that a problem? Why are we even discussing that?
Well, I mean, the reason why we're discussing it, and I don't even know that we're not going to be discussing the points that people have made that brought this into the public discourse. Like, because the point that someone made is they were basically doing a clickbaity thing where they were like, don't do session zero, just jump right in and start playing. Which, okay, but then like there was some discussion and there were some responses that were basically like, but this isn't like, we discuss safety tools at our table. It's really gross to not do that. And I think that part of that was like, for one, not really generously reading the initial post, and also like the initial post was sort of being clickbaity. Okay. It was saying a blanket statement.
Well, I guess not worried about the discussion there, because who gives a shit about Twitter?
Yeah.
But like, what's the objection to session zero? What's the logical objection to session zero?
Well, because, and this is like, I guess it's a little bit more of old school thinking in my opinion, but the reticence to do a session zero is that you're sitting around making characters together instead of playing the game. Okay. You don't spend a session when you play, Settlers of Catan. You don't spend a whole game session setting up the board and then being like, okay, see you all next week.
No, that's the House on whatever.
Like House on Haunted Hill or whatever.
Yeah, like those games you do but set up for 48 hours.
They usually take like an hour or two. And sometimes it's less if you've gotten used to it. Like Mansions of Madness takes 2 hours the first time, but that's because you got to punch out pieces.
Yeah.
But like once you get used to it, it goes pretty quick and you don't need to worry about it too much. But we don't do that in those kind of games. We set up the game, it's as minimal as possible, and then we just get started and we start playing. There's this barrier of entry issue in RPGs where if you're making characters, you have to basically do that. Like you have to do those things before you get started. Now, there's a point to be discussed, like there's some arguments to be had about things like Apocalypse World with the playbook model. With the playbooks, if you're all pretty experienced with Apocalypse World, even if you're only experienced with Apocalypse World and you're playing an Apocalypse World hack, you can sit down with a playbook and 5-10 minutes later you've got a character.
Right.
It's not very hard, and then you can just jump right in. It's super easy.
So you don't think if you're doing Apocalypse World, for example, you don't need a session zero? Not
properly. In fact, Apocalypse World is built as a sort of session zero as the first play. Like you do the first one, at least first edition Apocalypse World, you spend the first session like sort of establishing things and then building fronts.
Right.
That was taken out of second edition. I think in a way it was a little bit, mishandled in that regard. I don't think it's a terrible decision, but I do think that fronts were solid. And establishing them as your first session is a cool thing to do. But that's a whole different discussion. In Apocalypse World, you don't really need to have that session 0. You're not doing the playing, making characters, etc., etc.
Yeah.
It goes real quick. It's very easy. But like if you're doing discussions of what's comfortable, what's okay, that can be sort of session 0 content. Then again, I personally don't think that necessarily needs to take a whole session. In fact, for iHunt, what we did was we streamlined it into a little worksheet that you can do and sort of pass it around at the beginning of play, and then everyone knows like what everyone's cool with. It goes quick, and you're not supposed to take a whole session with it because it's a personal thing. Like, I don't really want to know that this person doesn't want to see reindeer in the game. Like, it's on the sheet. That's all I need to know.
Right.
I don't need to talk about it.
Please don't unpack it for me.
Yeah, please don't. Just tell me that you don't want it. That's cool. Put it on the sheet. We're done. It's pretty easy. Some people like to do these full like lines and veils sessions where they talk about all of these things, and like if that's your thing, cool. Like I would say
you have to be playing a pretty specific game for that to be
like if you're playing like Bluebeard's Bride and you want to have like deep emotional moments and stuff like that all the time or whatever, sure, knock yourself out, do that. I would personally say that unless you're having fun doing that discussion, don't do it. Like, don't do it like that. If you can't knock it out pretty quickly, then you got to ask yourself, why are you doing this? Like, if I need 4 hours to discuss with the people I'm sitting down with about how I don't want to see, like, sexual assault in my game or whatever, if that takes you a session, there's a problem. And maybe you shouldn't be sitting down with that group. Because that's not a convention one-shot. Like,
no. I wonder, so, not accessibility, but like kind of time management situational kind of thing. I wonder how many groups are running into a situation where like they get as far as a session 0 and they make characters and they talk about whatever their lines are, and then something happens and one player leaves, one player comes in, and now they kind of reset to a different game with a different session 0.
Yeah.
And they kind of get into a loop of that.
Yeah.
I could see people doing that.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a look a little bit in the chat?
Of course I do. Of course I do. Okay, so Other Doc said, I seem to remember that I started to use the term session 0 in the late aughts and early teens after I heard it on podcasts, but I'd done it for a while before that. It was handy and ultimately very valuable to think of it as its own session, though instead of the thing that you're trying to get out of the way before people start role-playing.
Oh, sure.
Sure. These days, my session 0s do take a whole session, even for Powered by the Apocalypse and others to build in it, but that's because I go crazy with communal world building. For my own games, at least, I found that it helps players' investment in what's going on. I actually agree with you there that that can be beneficial, although I do like to see that happen dynamically and organically.
Yeah.
I like to do the bare minimum world building up front, but I do like it to be communal. That way everyone is sort of building off of the same same sort of canvas.
I had a momentary dream that we were no longer in an apocalyptic state and we could like meet with friends for an actual game.
Yeah.
And imagine a session 0 where you start off by like watching a piece of media together that's going to have some of the themes that you want. Everybody sits around and watches. Miami Connection. That's not a good example, but Samurai Cop, that's still not a good example, but whatever. Everybody sits around and watches a piece of media or enjoys a piece of media, maybe while eating.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, everybody's like, oh, okay, well, let's, see.
We did that one time with when we were playing Requiem for Rome.
Yeah, that's right.
We sat down and watched the Rome TV show. We watched it as a group, and it was really fun, and it sort of sparked a whole bunch of ideas, and it gave us a lot of communal reference points that we could use. In addition to just knowing the television show, having seen it, we established a sort of internal language as we were watching it, because that's the way that a group dynamic works whenever you're consuming media together.
Yeah.
You come to communal points, and I do think that that's valuable.
The other place I could see like, do you really want to do this debate about session zeros is when you're talking about LARPing events that are supposed to be also at a con. Because sometimes for the heavier LARPs, they'll have that meeting session beforehand.
Yeah.
And you're already asking for your players to have a certain amount of time spent at the LARP itself.
Yeah.
So adding more time to that, more requirements, it becomes a time management issue, and you could potentially be losing players or putting players in a difficult situation if they have to do this pre-game to do the game.
Yeah.
You know, are they being left out because they can't invest that amount of time? And is that okay? Like, that might be fine for you. That might be the choice that you need to make, but...
Yeah. I think that briefings, especially in LARPs, are pretty valuable. They're useful, especially if you can keep them sort of pointed. I don't like them whenever they meander. But in a LARPs are particularly interesting because if you're doing like a convention LARP, you might have the room for 6 hours and that might be your arc, but you cannot assume that unless you have a very focused experience where everyone knows in advance and is definitely set on moment 0 to moment 360 or whatever, if they're going to be there the entire time, sure, but that's not an assumption in a LARP.
Yeah.
Generally, you will have people who will come in a little late, you'll have people who leave a little early, and sometimes you have people who do both and they're only there for a window in the middle.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that means that they have to be able to be entertained in that time. And if the session 0 thing is a total requirement, that actually shuts them out.
Yeah.
And also, and this is doubly important whenever you're talking about a long-term LARP.
Yeah.
I have been to LARPs that have been going on for 8 years. The first time I stepped in the door, they've been going on for 8 years. If they had a session 0, that was 8 years ago. Like, if I had children, they would be in elementary school from, between the time that session 0 happened and when I started playing. So there's, like, obviously it can't be a unilateral expectation for every game just because that model exists, it's very successful, and it works without. So it can be advantageous, but I can't say that it has to be necessary because obviously it's not in that model. Also, of course, if you're doing one-shots, if you're doing a game at a convention, you pop by games on demand at Gen Con or whatever, you can't do a session 0. Like, it's a one-shot. You might be there for 2 hours. Like, there's no time for it. Someone hands you the character sheet. They give you a 1-paragraph briefing on what you're to be doing. And there might be some basic expectations laid down for the game. But other than that, like, you got to roll with it. So to say that it is mandatory is... I think it's ignoring a lot of very valid styles of play.
Also con play, like not con play as in like LARP, but like them one shots, them at the booth kind of things.
That's what I just talked about.
Yeah.
The games on demand thing?
Yeah. But I meant like also just the ones that are like at a booth. Like,
oh yeah.
A walk up kind of thing.
Oh sure, like a demo type thing.
Demo,
yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. Sorry, I was agreeing with your point and building on it, but I did it poorly because I suck.
Dragon sound. Type 1.
Yeah.
Friends forever.
Here we go. Okay. What makes a good? And I'll take from the chat too. I'd love to hear your opinions. What do you think is if you have to do a session 0, what's the thing you have to do? What is to you the requirement for session 0?
Okay, that's a good question. And we'll take some from the chat. What do you think makes a good session 0?
Can I tell you mine?
Yeah, of course.
When I do a session 0 that's going to be an in-person game kind of thing, I want to know dietary restrictions and eating habits and allergies.
Oh, for the team.
Right, because I want to know of the players, if I have X, Y, and Z food, is that going to be a problem for anybody?
Yeah. Is this going to exclude anyone?
Right.
So we can work around that. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's a great one. I personally think that session 0 should be playing. I think that if it's not, that you're sort of punishing yourselves, and that's not a good way to start a game. It's a very bad first impression. So session 0 should have some aspect of play baked in. And if you're playing a game that doesn't really have that opportunity, you can still do it. I like to do, like, for example, if you're playing D&D, you can do a session 0 that is still play if you set the expectation that everyone should, as soon as possible, like as soon as they have a character class, a character like species or heritage, I'm not going to use the R word here, and a name. Like, you get those things down, you can start role playing.
Yeah.
And you can start establishing who your characters are, and that is a form of play. Especially for grognards who think that the dice should get out of the way, they have no excuse to not do that.
I could also see just kind of like okay, how would your character introduce themselves?
Oh yeah.
Just give me a couple of minutes of what they would say about themselves.
Yeah.
To help you find voice and seek that kind of information out.
My benchmark for this is a thing that I did a version of it in iHunt with our pilot episode rules. Yeah. But the real the real showcase to do here is leverage. Leverage the RPG has a really great system for the first session where it's basically just a series of what they call spotlight scenes, which, if you've ever seen the Leverage TV show, that's how all of the characters are introduced.
They're introduced doing something cool.
Yeah, they give you a background that not only shows you what they're good at, but it showcases their attitude and how they are going to interact with the story going forward. And I think that those are perfect for a session 0 because they are play. And if you're doing background shots, like if you're doing little flashbacks, then you don't have to worry about dice or anything. You could just show your character being cool, showing off that attitude. You can experiment with character voices, you can experiment with turns of phrase and stuff like that. But it's a real opportunity to jump into that character and really start running.
And give up on that accent that's not going to last longer than that 0 session.
Yeah, like Fiona's and Bernard's. Yeah.
All right, there's some comments in here.
Okay, so here we go. We have, in terms of long-term tabletop games, what do you think are the most important things for session 0 aside from safety rules and setting expectations?
Yeah, well, that's kind of what we're talking about right now, so that'll be
I think that basically fits in with what I was just talking about. That's my expectation.
Yeah, okay.
Try to do those two things so I know the desires of the players. Yeah, and that's with iHunt, the way that we did the level sheet rules, especially with the expanded version that we did in February of last year, we like everything to be proactive and assertive. Yeah. So people are telling you what they want and what they don't want, and that's absolutely a big deal. Shipping Trees here says safety tools and making sure that everybody is on the same page. I've had so many campaigns explode because people showed up with very different ideas of what was going to happen.
Oh yeah.
I absolutely agree. That's a huge thing.
Even people who think that they're all playing to the exact specifications of the game as written.
Yeah.
Will disagree on what that means. It's like anytime you wonder why did people argue so much about the Bible. Mm-hmm. I know because I've played Vampire the Masquerade with people who swear they understand it.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's something interesting to be said then for also good game design. Yeah. Because Vampire the Masquerade is probably the perfect example, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because if people read the Vampire the Masquerade book and they come and they sit down and they do what they believe the Vampire the Masquerade game is, they're going to do disparate things. Yeah. Some of them are going to do the sort of like self-indulgent, like humanity spiral gothic punk thing that the book talks about. And then some of them are going to do superhero with fang stories.
Yeah.
And some of them are going to do some combination thereof. Yeah. Some of them are going to dive into like international world-spanning conspiracy crap.
Yeah.
The thing is that it is an incoherent game.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily say that like in a hateful tone. I played it for years.
Yeah.
But it is incoherent. And if you have 5 people at your table, they're going to have at least 5 different ideas of what that game is.
Maybe 6.
And unfortunately, unless you're very good at it, a session 0 won't help there. Because still you're building the characters and you're all building with your own expectation and understanding of what the game is. And they're all probably correct. Yeah. Because the game is incoherent, there's no single vision that you can point to.
I mean, I guess as far as the session 0 goes and setting expectation, if you've done it before and you know where you've gone wrong before, you might have the advantage of being able to say, okay, guys, we're not doing the world-spanning conspiracy stuff. This is the dreaded term I used to hear all the time. This is a street-level game.
Yeah.
And X, Y, and Z are happening, and L isn't happening. That's cool, but that takes experience. Like
it takes a lot of experience.
For that to be necessary and doable, you have to have already had a lot of bad games.
You've had to have the bad games. You've had to, and you've had to be able to assess what was wrong with them.
Yeah, because I don't think that you could get that advice from someone outside of your circle of friends or the game specifically. I would love to be able to give you, okay, if you're going to sit down and play a game of iHunt, here is the stuff that you need to make sure that everybody is on the same page about, because I think that's in the book.
Yeah.
But it could be wrong.
Yeah. I think that there's also a quality that you need. You need to be assertive about what you expect and what you want.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't very good at that. So a game that is more incoherent, you're going to have trouble with that, because people who aren't assertive about what they expect and what they want aren't going to communicate that. They might even not know it.
Right. Well, like that Beach Boy game, there's no way to get a clear and specific idea, because they're not going to know what to say. They're not going to know what to ask.
Well, and the book says it's one thing and the game is completely not that.
I mean, that's also a thing.
Which is a problem.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people read that much of it, or they hear that much of it, and they think that's what it is, and then they go into the game and it's not that.
Yeah.
And that betrays their expectations. But hey, that ends up making more indie gamers.
But I see by your comment that you've been through the implosion of this sort of thing before. So
yeah.
I assume that you know what for your group of people you need to set limits on, and I think that's dope. I think that's great.
I agree.
Okay,
next, KTS is one of the things I've enjoyed most from Session 0 is setting up character connections, discussing who's related to who and how, hopefully simian character. Absolutely.
I gotta say, if you wanted to see a master course on that, you want Unknown Armies, the second edition. Third edition, that's the one.
Yeah.
That one, the character creation and the character interconnection stuff, so good.
Yeah.
So good. Nothing wrong with Smallville. Smallville had a very good version of it too, but Unknown Armies streamlined some of those ideas, and it's moody and atmospheric at the same time too. Oh, it's so good.
It's very good.
Okay.
Dwam says safety tools for sure, then theming, then coming up with what to do with the game, then who the characters are and why are they there. Yes, absolutely.
I believe in the Feng Shui philosophy. That's the game Feng Shui.
Feng Shui, yeah.
Feng Shui. Not the magic system, but like the game.
Yeah.
Because in the game, they tell you straight up, it is your job as a player to know why your character is there.
Yeah.
It's your job as the player to make your character be involved in every scene.
Yeah.
And like that's the sort of thing that I would be saying from Breath 1 at that 0 session or that first session, whatever that is.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay.
Alabrel says, during Session 0, I want to talk about goals, arcs, and expectations. Who are we individually and as a group, and what sort of tone will the game be?
Yeah, tone's good.
Yeah. And if your game doesn't have tone baked into the game traits and things, you need to figure out how to make that work.
Yeah.
Because in a game, you really need something in the game to hook into. Otherwise, you'll drift.
Fate's got you covered, but...
That's absolutely true, yeah. A lot of games do, but then again, a lot of games don't.
Right.
And let's see.
Man, maybe I should talk about how to set mood in Fate too.
That's a good one. Put it on the list.
Yeah.
And so then Cyrus says, those are definitely the most important things. Like Olivia said, show off what your PCs are good at and why they're cool and what they're about. Yes, absolutely. Because we want to be, this is the pilot episode, we want to be fans of the characters.
Yeah.
If we don't have that buy-in, then it sucks. And too many times in role-playing games, especially the ones that are, more incoherent, so they are not really sure of what they are, everyone is a fan of their own character, and that sucks. That's not enough. 5 people that love 5 characters each, or one character each, does not a game make. You need 5 people who love 5 characters.
Yeah. And you, director, whatever your position is, you need to be the biggest fan of those characters.
Yes. And Cyrus also said, I was just thinking of Burn Notice. Yeah, Fiona's accent in the pilot, which is lampshaded very beautifully in the second episode,
Yeah.
I think is a perfect example of this. You can, in, my sort of like holy trinity of TV shows from that era was Burn Notice, Leverage, and Psych.
Yeah.
And in Psych, they lampshaded recasting beautifully. The character who was one of the assistant police officers was dating one of the other detectives, and she was recast in the second episode. And basically, they transferred her out because of the relationship, and they brought in a character who had more like chemistry.
Yeah.
And she's brilliant. It was very good. But she filled the same role in the story, but they kind of worked out the kinks about how that worked and why that worked. Okay, and then Other Doc says, I have no idea how poorly or well it works for other people, so take anything with a grain of salt. Absolutely. The thing about this is that there's no hard rules, there's no like holy grail of this stuff. It's just what it is, and I think it's worth discussing. Not knowing what you want out of a game is a whole mood. Absolutely, Duam.
Oh boy.
I think that was the thing. That's probably why I became a game designer, is because I always knew what I wanted from a game, but it never really panned out. Even though like I could point to the game and I could be like, it says this is what it is. Like it says that I'm supposed to be exploring X, Y, and Z, so I want to explore X, Y, and Z at the table. And then we would play for 2 years, that stuff would never come up, and then I would like, I don't know, it was just awful.
I want you to give me your goals for your character. Okay, here they are. Those are never going to manifest, are they? I'm really glad I took the time to do this.
Yeah. And then let's see. Dwam said I had to take several breaks on my last D&D campaign to recalibrate. Yeah. Absolutely.
I have a question.
Yeah, of course.
What do both of you think about arriving at a table with a character that you already made?
I don't like doing that. Personally, I hate it. Yeah.
I
hate it, but I want to hear opinions about it.
I don't mind it if I like it in certain circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
I like it if we've already been given some guidelines as to why we're going to be interconnected. I like it if it's a very crunchy game that I've had, like if I have to play the Beach Boys game. I want the time to make sure that I understand the character sheet that I've built, because it is so complicated.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to be sitting through a session trying to figure that out and stressing out about it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me. Like that's a thing for me. The only other way that I can cope with that is if I get the basic beats down and then the GM is okay with me going home and finishing. That's fine, but you'll get pressured to not do that, and I don't know. If it's like if we're gonna play riffs, that kind of shit should happen separately. I think a lot. Of that.
Yeah, because you can't even finish it in what we would normally consider a session.
No, I don't think you can.
Like it's possible,
sad but true.
But then like what you end up having, and I've done this times before. I did this with Shadowrun. Yeah. I've done it with BattleTech and stuff, where like you want to do the session 0 and you want to sit down with a group, but then like you have 5 or 6 people sitting around with a book quietly scribbling,
yeah,
and then occasionally cursing, and then 6 hours have passed and you're not quite done.
Yeah, I think you've got to find a balance there between, like I think if you could agree, like you could do an email chain or whatever where everybody agrees on the basics and pre-makes the character, and then the first session is like how you met. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Alternatively, you can decide.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. You can decide like what the group dynamic is going to be. Like you're going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to be the glitter boy. Like I'm going to be the street samurai or whatever. And like everyone sort of comes to that conclusion, and then once you have that settled, then you can make your characters.
Although you know what I'll say, I do hate without question. Is when you are sitting down for a session 0 or whatever, a character creation session, and the one guy shows up with his completed sheet.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you know that guy's character sheet is full of bullshit, and that the GM is going to spend the whole time trying to talk him out of that awful min-maxed character that's going to step on everybody else's toes. And the whole time that you're trying to like build character creation connections between the characters, he'll be saying, "Well, my character's already done. He would never do that."
Yeah.
Like, I hate that guy.
Yeah, and like the best outcome possible there is that everyone caters to him.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
And that's his intention from the get-go. Like, you can't tell me. I just wanted to briefly note that Francita did suggest that she might be sharing some art with us from the upcoming book. And we have hit 25 viewers.
We
according
did.
to my numbers.
Yeah.
So if you
great.
feel like dropping those in the chat, I think that would be dope.
Yeah.
A little amuse-bouche.
I don't have a way to share it easily without switching windows and shit, so...
Or you could just spill a beverage on a character sheet.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, ideally, I think you want to be making your character... So, one way or the other, I think that the hearts of the characters, the personalities of the characters, those need to be shared.
Actually,
that needs to be done shared.
Francita, why don't you share it to the Discord? I can do it.
Yeah, you can do it.
Is it the... Oh, you just shared a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to share everything from the brief history of shit being the worst. And I'm going to share it over here.
Oh, KTS mentions coming up with a character, like a sketch or a drawing. That's another thing. Most people can't do that off the cuff. So, like, I could see the value in if you're going to do some artistry for the character. Yeah, maybe you have that done already.
Yeah.
But the key is if you're dealing with people who are bringing characters, like, to the table, I don't know, they gotta be flexible with whatever they've come up with. You know?
Okay, so here's some layout samples.
Yeah.
This is the opening of the book. I love this so much. And then this one.
Get that bread.
Yeah. Francita took Philomena's header for this section and turned it into something really, really great. Actually, no, that was mine.
Yeah.
The Get That Bread was mine.
Like, period appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my god. that I did it, and every time I read it, it kills me.
And then, oh wow, these are the four hunter groups in 1930 San Gennaro.
Yeah.
They're beautiful.
They look so good. Look at that Hoover orphan. Look at that Okie boy.
Yeah.
He looks like Dade, but 16.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Now I'm depressed.
Oh, I
love
it.
this book, but I gotta tell you, the research for it absolutely gave me manic depression. Like that.
And then here's another. Oh wow.
Fantastic. Oh, the engineer, right?
Oh yeah, I love that engineering
We
stuff.
Switched out some skills to make it period appropriate. You know.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, this is what we can expect in the next few days.
Yep.
Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah,
maybe.
We gotta proof it, but
Yeah.
then it'll go out and it'll be exciting.
Sierra says it is stupidly good. That is correct. I now expect everybody to run a game of I Hunt in the 30s.
Yeah, for those of you like who aren't aware,
Yeah.
our zines, our I Hunt zines, come out every month. And they're basically free to everyone on Patreon. We also sell them on Drivethru RPG and Itch.
Yeah.
But the thing is that Patreon people get more of them for less. Our Patreon is $5 a month. The zines are $5 per. But the thing is that we don't just do one a month. We do one a month, and then sometimes we do a bonus one.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, in the next 6 months, we're going to be doing maybe 6, or we've got 6 that are definite. We've got a 7th one that we'll be doing, and an 8th one that we will be doing. I don't know exactly when. One of them is February, and one of them is maybe March or April.
Yeah, I think so.
I have a very minor one that might also be in April. So it could be as many as 9 or 10
That's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of content, and everyone on the Patreon gets everything that we do like that.
Please, I can only be so excited. That is the correct energy, yes.
And for the little, like, the teaser preview part of it is that we're doing, the 6 of them that we have slated are I Hunt in the 1930s, 1950s, 1970s, 80s, 90s, and then the 2030s. We're going to do a little bit in the near future.
Yeah.
But we're also going to do 5 decades of the 20th century.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for the 90s and 80s books.
Yeah, of course you are.
Ridiculously excited to make all kinds of Killing Joke references and Vanilla Ice references, basically. It's going to be great.
And I'm excited for the 1950s.
Yeah. Francita's excited for the 50s. I think Philomena's excited for the 50s. The 30s book has been a blast.
The 30s is my baby, but yeah, I'm all in for all of them.
So we're gonna do 6 of those.
The 70s would work great with the slasher one, and hey, there might even be some connective tissue.
Yes, yeah. There will be a sort of like vague arc between them.
And in fact, you saw briefly there some of the hunter clubs from the 30s will be evolving those over the decades. And we'll be watching them grow into our modern kinks, and then from there watching them spread out into something new. Yeah.
So that's going to be super exciting. And then we have a special in February.
No problem. We haven't even gotten into the Fate stuff. We were just talking Discourse.
Yeah. And then in February we have a Valentine's themed one that's really cool. It's a bonus one.
It's a secret too.
It's a secret. I'm not going to talk about
Except for the fact that it exists.
It exists. We have a special one that is going to be Hellraiser themed.
Okay, Minotaur.
Because Minotaur got to choose one during our gift giving campaign. And then we have 1 or 2 others that I can't talk about yet.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of fucking content.
Yeah.
And you can get all of that on the Patreon. It's going to be super exciting.
Yeah.
And it helps us because like
we can budget for what we're able to do.
Yeah. Like that's a huge thing. So that's that thing.
We have such zines to show you.
We have such zines to show you. That's right.
God damn it, Liv. Hellraiser 2. You and Holden just don't want me to have any money, do you? I've got to give it to the people just as poor as I am. I mean, we are all pushing that same $5 around, right?
That is very much what we are doing. Yes.
And if you're interested in what we're up to and you want to keep a track of stuff, but maybe you're not able to do the Patreon right now, we do have a newsletter.
We do.
That whenever we're doing new stuff, we will post on that so you can find it.
Yeah.
I will later grab a link for that to post in the thing if you're a newsletter type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Mena is super excited for the Hellraiser one. You have no idea.
No idea.
Like, yeah.
Every day I'm like, can we stop everything else and do that first? And they're like, no.
Yeah. So that's a big deal. It's really great. And we have so much cool stuff lined up. And also we do a lot of advice stuff, like we do a lot of game design things. We do articles on like how to design parts of iHunt.
Yeah.
For example, like we do essays and stuff. Yeah. We do general game design discussion. We do a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah, I think so.
So we try to make it worth it.
I should have something up on playing with kids very soon.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and also everyone on the Patreon gets certain discounts. Like for example, at the end of every 6 months, we compile all of the zines into a hardcover book.
Yeah.
We just got the proofs for the first one, and we are getting ready to do the second one. In these hardcover books, you'll get a pretty big discount. I think it's like 10 or 15 off, I don't know, but you'll get a discount off of them because you get all of that content, but then there's also new content in the compilation. So there's a lot of cool stuff, and it really helps us out, and it's a good way to sort of do it as a subscription model.
Yeah.
Instead of just figuring out where we're doing stuff.
Dorm, I clicked on that fully expecting a lewd, and then it wasn't lewd, and then I was sad.
Yeah, what the hell?
But that is an accurate depiction of a migraine. So, that is what it is.
So, yeah. So anyway,
that's not saying everybody post lewds, please. I was just,
no,
it's
just
cool. A joke.
But, so that's a little bit of discussion about Session 0. Yep. I don't think we need to go into a lot more detail.
So in general, we agree. Yeah, I think you can do it.
It's a valuable tool.
But you want to have some playing involved so nobody feels like they wasted their time.
And you want to have a good intent. Like, you want to know what you're doing with it in advance. Yeah. And you have to be sure that it's what you want to do.
Yeah. Don't do it because that's what the popular kids on the Twitters told you to do.
Yeah, please don't do shit because of that.
Don't not do it because a popular kid on Twitter told you not to do it, right?
Yeah, do what's best for your table, and be be intentional in all things.
Yeah, the real zero session is the friends you made along the way.
I don't have any friends.
Ouch.
Oh,
We're
bye
sitting
bye,
right
bye bye,
here.
kids.
Okay, sure.
I'm gone from here.
Right? I'm going with Francita.
Yeah. Oh my god. So hurtful, Liv.
Yeah, it's like a knife right in the heart.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be making fun of Liv throughout the whole rest of my slideshow. So
that's somehow different.
I will. Yeah, I will keep on doing layout, but now I'm empty. I just wanted to know that.
Hey, but I did most of the writing for the book, so you're doing it for me, not Liv.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Are we ready?
Yeah, I think we're up to hour 2.
Yeah, basically.
Just about, yeah.
I am going to reshare it to the Twitters to let people know that they didn't want the discourse. It's done now.
Yeah. I'm going to actually do the same.
I did a whole thing this morning in my head where I tried to figure out how to make like a discourse as a visual metaphor or a visual
the discourse, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't quite get it to work out, but that might happen next time. Who knows? So we're just sending that stuff over, and you know that silence is so good for online streaming and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 second here. I'm just going to post on Twitter, and you guys can do so as well if you want, but...
It certainly would be cool if we got that number up to, like, say, I don't know, 30. Who knows? Isn't discourse just a... well, discourse. Well, you got this horse here and that horse over there. No, not quite.
No,
not quite.
No, stop it.
Kitty cat herder. Discourse. Yeah, that's it. And discourse. Thanks, Mom. There we go. All right, so I guess what we're headed into now is talking about kind of how to play Fate confidently. Because there's 2 levels of play. There's sitting there and kind of doing whatever the GM suggests that you do, and then you kind of toss some other stuff out there, but like that's not like playing with the familiarity of the game as it is. I often see people who want to run Fate be concerned, not yet, about I can't get my players to change their head to play this game, so I'm talking to the players of those people's games. And let's talk about how to do this confidently. If you're not confident to begin with, how do you play confidently? You lie. You just fake it. Like, that's it. If they don't know, the thing, and I've learned this from teaching kids. You can tell them anything, and as long as you do it with enough confidence, they'll believe you for, like, at least an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's good advice.
I'm not saying...
That's basically what I'm doing with Tina, not gonna lie.
Yeah, exactly.
You realize Tina's sitting right here.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Tina, I know you have a lot of faith in me, but like I'm probably faking it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the key there is to imagine the imaginary confidence of the cis white guy at your table and emulate that.
Oh my god.
Tina rolls her eyes.
What?
It's good. Okay. All right. So, how to play Fate. Ready?
Okay.
Go ahead. To play Fate, you have to forget that you're gaming. Forget it. Everything else I'm gonna teach you, you can forget about it.
No, you can't back this up.
I absolutely can back this up. I can, and I'm going to.
Panic.
No, don't panic. It's on the sign. Liv, read the sign.
Not really.
Wrench is there, holding a sign up.
Oh, it says, no, really. I can back it up. Don't panic. That's literally the opposite of all 3 things I just said.
It's almost like I knew you were going to give me a hard time. I set up the slideshow specifically to have an argument with somebody in the audience who's not actually here. It's great. No one specifically.
Wait until you see the thing farting on the next slide.
It's not I hate you. Okay, listen. Forget that you're playing a game. Imagine that you are describing a cool scene to a friend.
Yeah.
Imagine that you are, writing a book, writing a comic, laying out scenes in a comic, because you are just describing what your character is doing. If you can do that, you're most of the way there. Don't worry about the actions. Don't worry about, is this a create advantage? Don't worry about if this is an attack. Don't worry about if this is a defend action. All of that stuff does not matter as much as describing what your character is doing in a cool way.
Yeah.
Okay? So forget you're playing a game for now and just describe what your character does. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. All right, next one.
Okay, are you ready for this?
I am so ready for this. Oh my god. Well, now you're never going to never forget that you are in the driver's seat. You're in the driver's seat, right? I got that one right? That's
yeah, you're in the driver's seat.
Okay. Why didn't you pet that cat earlier? It was suffering so much. I gave him an olive. That's the same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the thing that it's good to think of when you are playing a game of Fate, and especially if it's your first game of Fate, or if you're trying to explain this to another player, you are in control of your own character's agency more than in any other game, I think. Unless it's like a free-form game where there are no rules. Like, for example, you can't die unless you agree to it.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
I don't know how, like, that's a hard thing for some players to wrap their heads around. But, like, if you go into it knowing that, like, no matter how tense this scene gets, I don't have to lose this character unless I feel like it. And the minute I feel like it, I can lose this character.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. You have almost complete agency over your character. Especially, I guess, up to the nose of the character next to you, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you should check out Van Wizards, by the way. The creator of Van Wizards is going to be with us on Wednesday at the same time. And we're going to be making fun games. But the thing is that...
Actually, the creator of Van Wizards is not going to be with us on Wednesday.
No, not this Wednesday.
Nick is going to be with us on Wednesday. Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. I know that.
Next Wednesday, John will be with us.
Yes. I heard it on Nuts and Bolts. I can't die unless I want to. I'm going to live forever. I don't know that you'd want to, but, we'll get there.
Who wants to live forever? Cue the queen.
You want to see Wrench go on a wild adventure with Trevor? That could happen.
Did I just make a Highlander reference? I did, didn't I? I didn't mean to.
Constantly.
Not constantly.
Okay. Remember what I said earlier about forget that you're playing a game? That's kind of this first step. You are describing what your character is doing. You're describing their actions, and then you're worrying about everything else. So if I say, my character loses her shit and punches Liv, don't worry about the details of that. I've said that. That's it. I've made my declaration of my character's action. Then we figure out how that works.
Yes.
So your focus should be on what your character does. Who wants to live
Rachel's
forever.
comment. Who wants to live forever? Oh my god.
Yeah, because it's her name.
No.
It's very funny.
You're just going to have to take our word for it.
I'm somewhat worried about the details of this interaction. I mean, like, you should be, but, like, you don't have to worry about it as a player until you've declared that action. Once you've decided how, and you know with confidence how to make statements about character actions, then whatever you do afterwards, we can figure it out mechanically. It's only one of 4 things. So I'm the GM. I already know what those 4 things are inside and out because I watched our previous stream about it.
That's right.
And I can tell you, that sounds like you're overcoming in the situation, or it sounds like you're attacking, okay? Or it sounds like you're creating an aspect. Cool, let's do it.
Yeah.
So you are safe and liberated from the burden of, okay, I'm gonna try to take a swing at him, but I know I have to know his armor class, and I'm gonna balance it against my plus to hit, and I don't know, can I use a longsword in this range? You have to do, with some other traditional games, you have to do so much mental planning to be able to do a basic action.
By the time you get to it, it's an afterthought.
And you've got nothing left for the cinematic description of your actions because it became so mechanical that you don't care. I hit it. I swing and I hit it. I
Yep.
swing and I hit it. You don't need to do that in Fate anymore because I just say, and then we find out what happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You just throw that fucking grenade. We'll figure out what happens once it lands.
That's right. And for a non-violent example is I'm going into the kitchen to make a sandwich.
Yeah.
We'll figure out what happens once I get there. We'll roll some dice once I'm there, but you don't have to worry about it beforehand. With some minor exceptions that we'll talk about. But by and large, declare your action. Let's figure out the aspects and the fate and the punching and the dice. We'll figure all that out later. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. I befriend the beholder. That's right. In the kitchen while you were trying to make a snack. So, the question is, how do you make statements about what your character is doing in a way that feels real good? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the tricks I'm going to give you next.
Okay.
Okay?
Am I switching the
yes,
slide?
Yes, you're switching the slide. Thank you.
Bam.
I want you to imagine the butt wiggle. I'm not kidding. I want you to picture in your head a very small kitten butt wiggling before the jump. Okay? And I'm going to even give you a demonstrative video here. I think that I know how this works. I don't know if I know how this works. Nope. Oh, yeah. Okay. Check it out. There he is. That's it. He's going to try it one more time. Oh, he was so sure he was going to make it. There's a butt wiggle.
Aww.
He's planning. Oh, nowhere. I can't get over this stupid video. I did not frame this whole video around this cat, I swear to God. But, okay, so...
Sorry?
Why did I show you a cat jumping? The reason is because when you are describing your character's actions, you want to imagine it as if your character has decided to do a thing, and your character has begun the action of doing the thing, and your character is pretty sure within their imagination what they're going to do. So you see that kitten there, he's looking up at that top of the counter, and he's already decided in his silly little kitten brain that he is going to leap from the ground all the way up there. That's what his brain says is happening. It's his little tiny fuzzy body that is not able to actually make that jump. So you can declare anything you want that your character is doing within the fiction of the story, as long as you know that there are going to be things that could interfere with that. So when you're making statements, you don't say, for example, I punch him so hard his head falls off. Right?
Yeah.
You say, I'm punching him with the intention of taking his fucking head off. Right? In my mind, I am going to punch him so hard that his head is going to go flying off. But it's entirely possible that the dice don't work with me. He defends himself well enough, and my little fist is not actually able to do it no matter how hard I wiggled my butt beforehand.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, you do the thing and then the world happens.
Right. So when you're framing these things, you want to think in terms of what is your character trying to do and leave room within it for how it goes, right?
I want to play the kitty again.
All right, fair enough.
Sorry.
I want this like on a doormat or a motivational poster. If you wanted to just hang out and watch cat videos, you could have just told us, Mena. I mean, I do.
So yeah, there's butt wiggle.
Okay, so when you're describing the actions of your characters, think for us in terms of what your character expects is going to happen, and be prepared for the fact that their tiny little fuzzy body is not actually capable of making that leap.
That's right.
Unless you can tag aspects, and we just assume that this kitten was totally out of fate points.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that later. Don't worry about that. Okay. Maybe we should make a game about living as a cat. Actually, it's funny that you should mention that. There is a game made by a member of the co-op.
Yeah, San Gennaro co-op.
The San Gennaro co-op called The Cats of San Gennaro, and it is about playing cats in the setting.
Yeah, in the iHunt setting.
So that exists.
Yep. It exists. It's really cool, and it's in two places. It's in the second San Gennaro Short Games Digest.
Yeah.
It's also in iHunt's zine 9.
Yeah.
Which is the Cats of San Gennaro.
Yeah.
So it's actually fully in there, laid out and everything, along with a whole bunch of really fun iHunt content.
Yeah, yeah. Cyrus says, see, in my favorite interpretation of this is I'm jumping as hard as I can to the counter, and success is me, the human, picking the cat up and helping them. Yeah, and that would be the cat, like, tags there, I'm so small, you know,
I'm very small.
They invoke their fate, you know, their aspect, like, world's cutest kitten, milk belly, and remember when I snuggled you that one time? And by that point, they have so many successes on their roll that the human in the room just goes over and puts them on the counter.
Yep.
So yeah, that's how that works.
I have the aspect. Meep.
It'd be amazing if we could bring iHunt and its zines to other countries. Boy, we're working on it.
We really are. We're trying. We're trying.
We're
It's
trying.
It's hard work.
And you know, you've got digital versions. That's sometimes the best we can do. Okay, so let's talk about aspects as a player.
Okay, sure.
Aspects, you're just describing things.
Is that right?
Yeah. You're really just describing the reality of your game fiction.
Oh no, not things.
Yeah, so you're just telling us what is happening. Imagine you are like the play-by-play guy at a wrestling match. I don't know, Cotton, what do you think about that? That's the core of what you're doing. You are the writer, director, and actor, and you are just telling us what's happening. And that's all an aspect is. It's a description of something that's happening. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. You do not have to learn any deep, complicated game jargon to understand an aspect any more than just it's like a one sentence that tells you something that's true. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think I can click the button.
Sure.
Do I click it here?
You click that one.
Okay, I can try. Okay. As far as aspects go, brevity is the wit of soul, which is a really fancy ass way of saying keep it short, keep it punchy. When you're worried about whether or not you're as funny and clever as everybody else at the table, the best way to get there is to just try to keep it short. And if you aren't funny, keeping it short but saying what needs to be said, it's better almost.
Yeah.
You know, because if you focus too much on being funny as a player, you can get caught up in your sense of humor that might be different than other people's sense of humor. You're setting yourself up for working on your type 5 instead of actually playing a game.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that. Yeah, be pithy. Be pithy. And you don't need second edition exalted studs because no one needs those. So like I would say, yeah, just try to keep it short. If you can break what's important down to like 3 to 5 words, you've got yourself a pretty banging aspect, whether it's funny or not, whether it's full of puns or not, whether it's like on fleet or not, right? Like I can come up with a very funny description for I've just set an NPC on fire, or I can say dude's on fire, and like that says everything I need. Yeah. Okay, so keep it short. Then just describe what's happening. You don't have to worry about the past, future, or present. You just need to basically say, dude's on fire. Guy's real handsome. Lady's in charge. If you're just telling me that the moment that the event is happening and it's lingering forward, so like in grammatical terms, imperfect past tense. Never mind. Nobody cares about grammar. But you're basically telling us exactly what you see, or what's just basically true about your characters, because this is all advice that applies to making your character and having aspects for your character. It's just describe what's true about your character. She's a redhead. You know, we can build out from what that means culturally and interpersonally and you know, all that sort of thing. We can do that ourselves. So as long as the key is there, the thing that's true is there, then we can build from there. And remember, the other thing that fate aspects do is they tell us if we're dealing with a very specific circumstance. So if my character has the aspect world's greatest dad, by that being true, we know that this character is not only exceptional at being a dad, but by comparison, most other dads just don't rate. I have created a statement that's true in a way that kind of like eliminates other things from being true. So I'm narrowing the focus of the story by just simply describing an ultimate or penultimate statement.
Oh yeah, so that character, for example, would have a life lesson to teach his daughter because he's the best father in the world.
Yeah.
He would basically deprive her of food because she doesn't know how to open a can. Is that what you're saying?
Tina just says what to the sky.
No, why?
Why? Did
you hear about? Okay, I was gonna say.
Stop.
Being dead.
Teachable moment. Yes.
As a teacher, let me tell you how that's not a teachable moment, but maybe an aside thing. Yeah. Okay. Sure. So sad dad, right?
Sad dad's good. Yeah.
By making the statement sad dad, I am eliminating the possibility that this particular character is going to be happy-go-lucky, right?
Yeah.
But when you're making an aspect, when you're creating an aspect, when you're describing a thing that is true, you are sometimes both saying what is true and therefore what must be false in response.
I'm just drawn that way.
I'm just drawn that way. It's not my fault. It says slow clap for the dad being dad reference. We didn't set that up. That just happened. Sorry about that.
No, I'm just here. Like this happens when I'm around. Sorry.
The world's most powerful dad versus the best dad in the world. I think we all win in that one. It's good that there are good dads.
Dad fight?
No, well, versus could be like it could be a barbecue cook-off, and we all get really good barbecue.
No, it's a fist fight.
Fair enough. I see you all on Twitter. I know this shit just happens.
Oh shit! People see my Twitter? Fuck.
Yeah, you know it's been unlocked for like years now, right?
Oh, okay.
That was your mistake. So we've just described what happens on Liv's Twitter. All right. Next. Funny is good, but it's not necessary. I mentioned this a little bit earlier with the brevity of wit. If you're hanging around with a bunch of comedians and they are just tossing them out left and right, please don't feel like it's necessary for you to run up with that.
Yeah.
In my experience running Fate and playing games that are kind of have a humorous bent to them, the player who doesn't necessarily have the one-offs all the time, when they're de-stressed about it, when they take their time, the one that they do toss out slays the whole night.
Yeah.
So like, please don't feel like you have to be the wittiest person at the table or that you have to keep up with the other witty people at the table. And like, it's fine. Just relax, describe what's happening, keep it short. If the humor is there, you'll find it. It's fine. Don't try to be too funny, because if anything, that's only going to backfire. That makes sense? A very important lesson from Fate. This is from the chat from Cyrus. It took me forever to work with. I can do a fucking killer wit thing occasionally, but if I push it, it sucks. Yeah, exactly. You find your moment, you find your joke of the evening, and that's the one that gets remembered, not the 30 of them that I throw out.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, if you look at, like, even like, Family Guy, South Park, that sort of thing, occasionally they will have moments, but a lot of times it's just forced.
Yeah.
And that means that ultimately they're just, like, they're going to be hitting the wall a lot.
Yeah.
And that sucks at a game table because you don't have a team of writers to sit around for a couple of weeks to come up with those. So you end up belaboring the point and I would rather have 3 good jokes in a night than 100 shitty ones.
Yeah. I think a really good example of this dynamic, you'll find if you watch the show Drawfee, which is a YouTube channel. I mention it all the time. I steal from them quite frequently. They're very, very funny. But like, there's a couple of the guys on there they're very fast. They're just throwing jokes out left and right. They're just moving right over it. One of their I would say whatever. There's no justifying. One of the artists there, she is an incredibly good artist, but she's not there throwing out all the jokes. So when she drops a joke, it silences, like it slays. So like, wait for those moments for yourself. Don't rush into them. And if you are funny guys like me, slow it down. Give a room for everybody to make a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. And I guess this can also be true with like playing like very dramatic moments.
Yeah.
If you're playing very serious, heavy game and everybody's having really heavy moment, and you can't run with that, like it's not comfortable for you, wait until you find the moment that is correct for you to do the dramatic thing.
Yeah.
It's okay. There's nothing wrong with being the player at the table who's just a basic good player who's just playing the game. You don't have to be the star, because when you do shine, everybody will remember that moment the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Minotaur, it's actually Drawfee, Drawfee. It is not a channel dedicated to admonishing Rob Liefeld. It is
Draw feet, motherfucker.
Yeah, draw feet,
Draw 'em.
bitch. It is Drawfee, like coffee.
Yeah.
But draw.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Cyrus, I would agree with you. Everyone should be the star, and frankly, as the player, your job is to share the space, and it's the director's job to make sure everybody gets the spotlight. So don't sweat about forcing yourself to have the spotlight, take over whatever you can do. Thank you. Yes, our little kid is jumping around and making a lot of extra noises. And he will stop that. Thank you. Very good. Okay. Yeah, everybody should make room for each other and like set up a joke for another player if you can. But don't sweat about always being at the forefront of humor yourself. Clear those aspects to make room for new ones. Okay, so this is where we'll get as technical as Fate Play needs to get. You guys are creating aspects, you guys are describing things that are happening, you're adventuring, you're rolling dice, it's a good time. And everybody's been building aspects. And what that means is your table is absolutely full of cards that say brief or funny things, right? Use them. If there's free invokes on them, which is a technical thing, but basically if they're there to be used, use them. Don't hesitate to use them. Don't wait for the other player to use them. Unless it's something very specific to that particular character, or it's something that they're setting up for another role for. If they're on the table, use them, because when you get rid of all of those invokes, the aspect goes off the table and now you have more clear space. So if the question is, should I use this aspect? Yeah, probably. It's fine. If you're building a high roll where you need to really pull in all of those aspects and have a nice big boost, go for it. Don't hesitate. It makes it better because it clears off space and it gives people more opportunities to make new aspects, and that's the fun part of the game. Making those aspects, using them, and moving on. Don't leave things lingering on the table. If you need it, tag it. That's all. Everybody's checking on their cats every time the cat meows. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Maybe we'll lock them in a room some point. I mean, we won't, but let's pretend. Okay, I think we're gonna, this is not on here, but I just want to say this. Don't hesitate to ask people's advice. If you can't come up with a good name for an aspect, just lean over to the guy next to you, assuming that we're not distancing or whatever, and just be like, hey, so my character did X, Y, and Z. I need to come up with an aspect. What do you think? Your group is there to help. We are all creating these stories together. So aspect distracting cat. That's right. That's a theme aspect. That's just sitting on the table. It stays there the whole game, but that's a GMing technique. So don't worry about it. It's fine. Ask for help. If you don't know, don't stress about it. Just check with other people. What do they think? And then you'll get 5 examples, and you get to pick the funniest one, and then you look like the arbiter of humor, and you look like the arbiter of all things because you picked the right one. So that's fun. Some of the best aspects in games I've played have come from everyone at the table chipping in. Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing you can do too. If you see another player struggling, and you've got that aspect at the top of your head, you go, hey, what about blah? Blah would actually not be a very good aspect because it doesn't really communicate anything very clearly. So yeah, do that. All right, so I want to play a little game, okay? I'm going to show you guys a picture, and I want you to help me create an aspect. Tina's cheating, she's looking ahead. I want to get an aspect for this person. Now just look at them, judge them on whatever criteria you want. But I want an aspect for if they're a player character. So a player character's aspect, your high, whatever, high function. That's not right. High concept. Thank you. Their trouble, their whatever. Pick one. I want to get an aspect of if they're an NPC, if they're like a one-shot NPC, describe this NPC to me as with one aspect. And how about an aspect if they are an obstacle? So it's not a non-player character. It's not somebody you're going to talk to, but it is somebody that you have to overcome. So describing him as your character, as somebody else's character, or as an obstacle to overcome. Does that sound good? I mean, you can't say no because you're in a chat and I'm talking, so I'm deciding that I tried to use the wrong computer. There's too many things happening. Okay, here we go. Please give me 3 aspects for this cutie patootie. You want to give me one? Just tell me what's happening with him.
Day job, hot topic.
His day job is hot topic.
That's all I know.
I like that. And if I were to suggest to build on that, maybe he's the manager of the last hot topic in town.
Oh, of course.
Because now we build on the idea and we're telling you something more real. And that aspect, that build on that aspect, tells you what's not true. Well, we know what's not true now is that there are lots of hot topics in town. We know that there's only this one. So now we know about him and his day job. That's beautiful. What do you think about for him as an NPC, as an antagonist or an ally?
He looks smug.
Does he look smug?
Yeah.
Okay. Smug is good. You don't need more than smug because I think smug communicates a lot.
Yeah.
Especially for an NPC, you don't need to really go into anything that's super clever or in depth because you're just describing that guy over there.
He looks like a smug nihilist.
Yeah. I think so. So if he's just an obstacle, he's just something to kind of overcome, what do you think?
As in what?
How would you describe a guy like that in terms of how you would basically, another example would be sleeping security guard, right? That kind of thing? Because we're not going to interact with that character as a person per se, but we're going to interact with him as a challenge to overcome. I don't know is okay also.
No, it's beating him in a debate.
Oh, debate
One
me.
of those debates.
Debate me. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good one. I see in the chat, Joe tosses out, well countercultured. Oh, that's cute.
I like that.
NPC, perceptive stoner. Oh, perceptive stoner. That's right. And obstacle, knows your mom. He knows my mom. Well, no. I mean, as the mom, he knows me. He would know me. I would know him. Never mind. We're moving on. Sirius says rebels against his bosses. Just wants to have fun. Cyndi Lauper, sure. And stands for his friends. Oh, so it's kind of like a gang of guys, and you're gonna have to separate them to get through. That's good. Knows your mom. Biblically, yeah. Distractingly well lit fan. Yeah. What do you think, Liv? How would you describe him as a PC, as an NPC, and as an obstacle?
Oh God. Okay. As a PC, let's see. Only posers die.
Only posers die. Mm-hmm.
As an NPC.
God damn it, Liv.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna cry. Only posers die. Mm-hmm. As an NPC. Let's see. I would say.
1% of his power.
Yeah, 1% of his power is good. That's a good one. What was the other one?
If you were just describing him as an obstacle to overcome, like this guard.
I would say disarming smile.
Yeah. Okay. All right, you got to get past that smile in order to do on whatever you got to do.
Well, he's cute, but also he might hit you.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't think I'd mind either way, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, that's why it's disarming.
So the phone buzzed like it was like yelling at me personally for my joke just now. Yeah, so that's fantastic. He's what's his name? What's his face?
Matthew Lillard?
I keep wanting to say serial killer, and that's not fair. He's in Hackers. He's in a bunch of nerd stuff. He's a big nerd guy. Beatles and Grimm.
Beetle and Grimm is
Beetle
the
and
company
Grimm.
that he co-owns, yeah.
Yeah, they make cool stuff for that Beach Boys game. That
And
I don't
other
play.
games.
And other games, too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're working with Pathfinder.
That's right.
Logan, so I know Logan Bonner, and Logan is working with them. So basically, I'm like 1 or 2 degrees separated from
Matthew
a
Lillard.
very beautiful man whom I have strong feelings for. Okay, Liv just makes an SLC punk reference, and for that I will always love you. I mean, yeah, that's why I picked him. Francita, do you want to toss out 3? Are you working?
I am working, but yeah, I would love to participate.
Yeah. Well, so how would you describe what aspect would you give him as a character?
Okay, give me a second.
Yeah.
Let me. Oh my God, I have too many tabs open.
Look for the one. No, you can't even look for the one with the sound on it because it's.
I went in a rabbit hole in archive.org. Like.
Oh.
That's a good place to rabbit hole.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I would say. An aspect. We're tossing like any aspect. We are like not necessarily the high concept or whatever.
No. Like Tina suggested his day job.
I would say that this guy is that friend that is your partner in crime.
Oh, like. Yeah, definitely. Partner in crime friend, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Guam says extremely white ally. And if you were going to describe him as an NPC, how would you describe him?
It's an NPC?
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
The cat's answering.
No, but everybody's cat's
I feel like
Go ahead.
I feel like as an NPC, like he will be like the dude who wants to help.
Oh,
like,
wants to help.
Mm.
Yeah. It's like the dude. I don't know. Like I don't know why, but he reminds me to a character from Ace Attorney. The one that is just like very like it's laughing all the time and it's like very very like kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've just described his
stupid but well intentioned.
Yeah.
Stupid well intentioned. Another aspect.
Yeah.
I like that.
I mean, he did play Scooby or Shaggy, so
that's
like
right.
That's appropriate.
Hey.
Oh, the cat's hopped up on here to yell.
Oh, the cat's decided he's laying in my lap now.
All right, there you go.
I would also accept because I'm thinking about Ted Raimi of all things.
Yeah.
I would accept you have my stainless steel. Yeah.
Or how about I'll take one of those. You need all those fries.
Serial killer.
Yeah. And so okay, so why did I do this? Why did I ask you guys to do like kind of director stuff or GM stuff? Because remember, you are in the driver's seat, and sometimes as a player in Fate, you are creating aspects for stuff that's not player stuff. Sometimes you are making NPCs on the fly, and you need to be able to describe them like NPCs. Sometimes you are creating obstacles for yourself, for others. The GM role is very heavily shared at the table when you're playing Fate, because we are all invested in crafting the story. And I would even say that the players are really doing most of the directing, and the director is just there to support the players' movements. So the reason that I go through this little exercise with everybody here is because I want you to have confidence to create NPCs on the fly, just like a GM would. Because you can.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. All right. So this tried to get help and gets shot by George Clooney. I mean, yeah. So, not to stress you guys out,
What?
but I'm going to talk about stress.
Fuck!
Yeah, don't panic. Don't panic.
Oh no!
So this is a crunchier part of the game, and like I know I said don't worry about the game side of things, but I do want to make sure that you are walking into your next session confident about how harm works in Fate. Okay? So we are going to start with first, take no harm, ideally. That's a joke because there's the doctor thing, the do no harm, but it's take no harm because you don't want to get killed.
I don't know, can you explain it more?
Probably not, no.
Okay.
Okay, so, what's a stress track?
I don't fucking know what a stress track is. The stress track is a thing.
Olivia. What's a stress track?
Olivia knows what stress tracks are. I promise. Stress tracks are...
Yeah, she's stalling.
I am not Stalin. I am not Stalin. I am not a Stalin admirer. I am not a tanky.
Not a
Stop
tanky.
acting like people in my Twitter mentions.
Fair.
A stress track
Yeah.
is a series of boxes that are different from game to game.
Yeah.
And their purpose is to mitigate harm in an extremely temporary way.
Okay.
They are boxes that when you mark them off, they come back at the end of the scene. And depending on the iteration of Fate that you are using, they may do that in different ways.
Twom says it's the edgier version of a riff track. Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, so that's what a stress track is. You were just able to describe that pretty easily without thinking about it too hard.
Yeah.
Okay, what's a hit point?
I don't fucking know what a hit point is.
See, I knew she was going to say that.
A hit point is this thing where basically sometimes, depending on who you're asking, it reflects on your character's health and their durability and their ability to withstand blows. Sometimes it's their ability to dodge shit. Sometimes it's their ability to magnetically repel weapons, depending on the system that you're using. Also, it's stupid.
So you're saying that you feel like hit points don't model...
literally anything.
All right.
Oftentimes they are said to model contradictory things depending on which rhetorical point people want to use to defend their stupid game.
Right. So we don't use hit points in Fate. And most of the reasons are whatever the hell Liv just said. I kind of stopped paying attention when she goes on those rants, which is fine.
Well, no. Basically, you get hit with an axe in D&D.
Yeah.
You take 8 damage, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you take 8 hit points of damage.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, well, why is that not consequential in any meaningful way? And they're like, well, because actually hit points are you like dodging around and like stuff like that and not actually taking injury from it because, you know, it's not the meaningful hits. It's just minor stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, okay, then why
does... If it doesn't matter, why are we doing it?
Well, if it doesn't matter, why are we doing it?
Yeah.
Also, why does Constitution add to it?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense if it's about dodging and rolling around and stuff. But then that's, I guess, armor class. But then armor class is not reflected on hit points at all.
No.
They're two different things.
Yeah.
And if it's not actually consequential injury, then why do I get rid of it with the spell Cure Serious Wounds? Because it's a fucking wound. Don't lie to me.
So, with that in mind, let's talk about how we emulate moments of stress and harm in Fate, right? So here's the core of it. In Fate, you're in a conflict where two characters are trying to do something, and it is involving harming one another.
Yep.
Okay. Your goal when you are in a conflict with another character is to knock them out of the scene. And when I say that, I generally picture Team Rocket blasting off again at the end of a Pokemon episode.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that point of reference, just pretend I didn't say it. You are trying to, in some way or another, use punching, kicking, talking, nagging, crying, any number of these things to drive another character out of your way and out of the scene.
Yep.
And while you're doing that, you are trying not to get so stressed out or so harmed that you yourself leave the scene. That is attack and defense from a player's point of view. You are trying to get that other person the heck out of your way before they get you the heck out of their way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. So how it works, there's some rolling.
Yeah.
And then you're comparing, I had a roll that was 5 and you had a roll that was 3. So that means I'm doing 2 to you because I've beaten your roll by 2.
That's right.
And those 2 are harm.
Mm-hmm.
There's ouchies. If you take that harm without mitigating it in any way, you're out of the scene.
That's right.
As a player, you have the agency to leave that scene at that moment. You can decide, no, I take the harm, I'm out. I'm out of the scene. The last time we were playing iHunt, Phil decided to do that with his character.
Yeah, Phil conceded right before he got exploded.
Yeah, and that's valid. That's a perfectly valid way to run a scene. Your character is knocked out, your character is hit over the head and unconscious, your character runs. Your character needs to sit down and reassess everything they've ever done with their lives, and they don't have time for this argument anymore. Your character is not going to debate him, that kind of thing. And
Facts don't care about your feelings.
Facts don't care about your feelings. Sure, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So I take the harm. I'm out of the scene. That's my choice.
That's right.
Or I can mitigate that harm in one of 2 ways.
Yeah.
The first way that we're talking about here now is a stress track. I did 2 harm. That person doesn't want to be knocked out of the scene. They mark off 2 boxes.
Or a 2 box, depending on the version of Fate you're using.
Sure, right.
But, yeah, you can use stress to mitigate harm.
Right. And that reflects your character is rattled. Physically, emotionally, whatever your stress tracks represent, because they might be different from game to game.
Yeah.
But your character is somehow rattled, and therefore they are slightly less of an obstacle going forward.
Or I guess more appropriately, they are not rattled. If you're taking it in stress, that means you're taking it in stride. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
That's how much stress you can handle without any consequence in the scene.
Oh, sure. I guess that's probably the better way to
This don't
present
fucking matter. I can
bad.
take a few punches. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, hit me again. Go ahead. Right in the face.
Yeah.
Or like your silly debate tactics are nothing. I can see that's calling on, what's that? Rabbinical? No. Rhetorical. Like your rhetorical jujitsu is nothing on me. I'm not impressed by the point you just made.
That's right.
Yeah. So I've marked off some stress points, stress boxes on my stress track. I'm fine. I'm still in the scene.
Yeah.
Okay? But what happens if I get a whole bunch of stress all at once? So I rolled harm. Sorry, I rolled 1. They rolled like 8.
And so there's a net difference of 7.
I've got 7. I don't have that many boxes on my stress track.
Yeah.
Now I'm, as a player, starting to stress out. Don't. You're fine. Because you have consequences.
That's right, you do.
So consequences are when you have been harmed in a way that it is reflected on your character in a sort of long-term way. There are ways...
Or a consequential way.
In a consequential way.
Because it's a consequence.
Because it's a consequence. It's right there in the tin.
Yeah.
Look at that. And this is like a broken leg.
That's right.
A wounded ego. This is when the harm is getting to you.
Yes.
And you can't just shake it off easily. And these are so cool. I can't stress enough how badass they are. Because you get to describe them.
Mm-hmm.
You get to decide the cool, edgy, badass way that your character is showing harm. I think of in the end of that movie by that guy that we don't like anymore. The end of the Firefly movie.
Nathan Fillion?
Well, no, we like Nathan Fillion, but the director.
Oh, so, Joss Whedon.
Yeah. Imagine the end of that movie. Nathan Fillion is walking there. He's covered in blood. One of his eyeballs is all red because he got hit in the eye or the head hard enough that it's bled into his eyeball. Like, that's a consequence. That's so vivid. And yeah, okay, like I make a consequence and people who are fighting on me against me can tag that consequence, can invoke that consequence against me. That's dope. That makes it more exciting. That means that the reality of the story that we're making has gotten more interesting because we are in concrete saying, I was injured in this way. So let's try to pick a non-violent version of this. let's say we're in a debate and the other person scores these like points, kind of emotional points, and I am impressed. My consequence is like it's a 4 point. I am impressed. And so like I've given the guy the up nod. Like I'm like, okay, all right, you got something on that one.
Well, that was good.
That was good. And then the next attack, the next part of the debate, that person tags or invokes the fact that I'm impressed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's reacting to the thing that happened in the story, rather than it just be I roll dice, I roll dice, I roll dice. There's a back and forth that's built into the mechanics of the scene, and that's it's so juicy. I love it so much. So like, embrace consequences, embrace stress because of the stress tracks, because they're there for you, and remember, you can't die unless you decide to. All that happens is that you're out of the scene. So it's not a thing that you should be afraid of. You shouldn't be avoiding conflict. You shouldn't be avoiding competition. You shouldn't be avoiding that fight, whether it's emotional, physical, intellectual, whatever, because all it does is build story, makes your character more interesting, and ultimately has a thing happen and another thing happen in the setting, in the story. So it's good. Okay. I just want to check on the chat here. Somebody said, of course. Playing a slice of life game where you have a conflict with the business representative over the phone to get a straight answer about some bills. I mean, yeah. And that's an attack back and forth. It might be a mental stress track if that's what your game has, but that's absolutely right. A major consequence is getting a headache from being on the phone for hours.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
There's an entire chapter of iHunt about that.
About getting a headache?
The novel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Lana has to do those phone calls, and they absolutely do consequences.
You know, we should at some point do that, where we should take a chapter.
Sure.
And break down how it would work as a game of Fate. I think that would be fun.
Well, we are ahead of schedule, so we might do that tonight.
And we can also talk about challenges, because that's a big deal.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Okay, the best part of consequences is that they can be modified based on how gritty, pulpy, etc. the game is. Yeah, a flesh wound, broken rib is one game, can be a minor consequence, or a major one in a different game. Exactly. If you're playing if you're basing on media that it's like, did that guy just get like stabbed through the chest and he's still walking? Oh, well, I guess that's the game it is. Like, that's fine if everybody's on board with that. Yes, break down the scene with some mechanics. Yeah, superheroes versus a normal person. Or, like, I mean, even if you're doing, like, the noir detective, right? Because those guys get clonked on the head and taken out of scenes all the time. But, like, if you were playing a more, like, real game, they would have, like, long-term brain damage from that. Like, you can't actually hit someone in the head on the way that, like, would knock them out without, like, basically almost killing them outside of fiction. So, like, you know, that's a good place to kind of know where your mood is. Okay, and one other thing, do you have stunts or extras that are going to modify how you're dealing with harm? You might have an aspect that in certain an extra that in certain situations you ignore an amount of harm, or you take harm from one stress track and you can put it on another. There's a couple of different ways that stunts mess around with those rules. So when you're picking stunts or extras, make sure that you know how they engage with the conflict there. That way you can feel confident when it comes up, even if it's just a matter of, hey, on my sheet, I remember it saying something about this. Is this the place where this happens? Do that. It's better to ask than to leave it sitting like a withering fruit on the vine. You know, don't let your stunts wither on the vine, but we'll talk about that more later. That's why detective books are so long, yeah. And have an idea of how you heal in your game. Different Fate games handle this a little bit differently. In iHunt, how do you heal harm in iHunt? Or how do you, because stress just goes away. Everything in the stress track vanishes.
Yeah, consequences.
How do you deal with consequences?
Consequences, it's basically the same as Fate Core. You use an overcome action that's dependent, that the difficulty is dependent on the type of consequence. So a mild consequence is a passive opposition of 2, moderate's 4, and severe is 6, and you can't do it with an extreme consequence. You make an overcome action, and basically what it does is it downgrades the weakest form of consequence on your sheet. So you turn a mild into nothing, moderate into a mild, or a severe into a moderate. And there's limitations for how often you can do that.
Yeah.
That's how it works in iHunt.
Yeah. How it will work in, say, Flat Pack. I don't know. I haven't written that yet, but it'll be simpler. That sort of thing. So make sure that you know within whatever specific game of Fate that you're playing how they work. If they're just out of the core book or if they're a little bit different. I think Dresden Files does it a little bit differently.
Probably. It's a slightly older version of Fate, so it makes sense.
Yeah. So, just make sure that you know that so that and don't feel like you're stuck with a consequence for the rest of your life. Your character's life, I guess. You're not. There are ways to mitigate them. Even the extreme consequences, which should be like character changing, you can still change them at milestones, right?
You can change an extreme consequence. You can't mitigate it completely because it is a completely character redefining. It literally redefines one of your aspects.
Yeah, but
that's the nature of it.
That's actually cool.
Yeah.
It's like how Geralt in the later Witcher books
is disabled.
He's permanently disabled,
yeah.
And it makes him more interesting. Is there an advantage for not downgrading a disadvantage? Because I like encouraging people to not do so.
Well, the one thing that you can do by leaving a consequence on your character sheet is that it is an aspect, and you can use it. Now, you don't necessarily have free invokes on it. Your opponents have free invokes against you on your consequences, but you don't. But you do have access to them with fate points. You can invoke them. And you can compel them.
Yeah.
So you can self-compel and use them as an engine for generating fate points.
Yeah.
And you can invoke them by spending your own fate points. Also, there's room for stunts that would allow you to have free invokes on your consequences. I don't see why you couldn't do that.
I can think of a title for one, but I'm not going to say it out loud.
God damn it. Why? You can't just do that now.
Dave, go in the other room for a minute. You could have a stunt. You could have a stunt called Pain Slut.
Oh,
right?
Okay, that's a good one.
That's a good thing for you. That works out for you.
Yeah,
you get invokes on your own thing because it's like, hit me again. Woo! If that's your thing, no judgment.
Yeah.
Or humiliation. If you like being embarrassed in a terrible way emotionally, then you get to tag consequences on your mental stress track or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go on Twitter and start talking about your child and their experience with cans.
Yeah.
Basically.
Tina's again. Why?
Or you're like, short women are just exist to be the targets of pedophilia. Basically,
we're not doing discourse. Remember how we're not doing that?
I am turning the discourse into fate traits. Okay.
Are we going to do a thing eventually where people post their worst Twitter takes or the worst Twitter takes they can find, and then we have to figure out an aspect?
Oh my God, that's great.
I
already know which one I would do.
I know which one you would do.
Yeah, the alligator tweet.
Yeah. If we had a character in a game once invoke their bloodied face from a fight to intimidate the bouncer at the bar. Exactly. Aspect teachable moment. Forget it, Liv. It's Bean Dad.
Yep.
And then hashtag Dick Horse. It's good that we've set a tone, and that tone is
I love our tone.
Yeah, it's very good.
We have a good tone.
It's my fault, I'm sure. Okay, all right. So that's combat, basically.
That's
the conflict system. Feel confident. Your character is safe until you decide that they're not. Consequences are cool. You might have stunts that change up the setting a little bit, so make sure that you at least know how they do. How they do? Know how they do.
How they do.
And if you don't know how they do, make sure that you know kind of when you should ask if they do, so that you can ask your director or other players, is this when it do? Yeah.
Shiving Tree, it's Panic at the Discourse.
Somebody's done that joke, right?
Panic at the Discourse?
Yeah.
I've never heard it, but now I'm using it.
All right. Well, it came from them first, so. I love the tone here. It's what keeps me coming back. Well, that's good. I don't know what's keeping me coming back. All right. So that's.
It's that you like to be humiliated.
Oh, I get to compel my own status stunts. Tina just shakes her head, goes back to what she's doing. Tina, since I have you here, is there anything about the conflict system that we've described here that as a player you're not sure about? And Francita, also, if you have any specific questions about this. Cyrus, have a good one. And I will post all of this on YouTube eventually, pretty soon. So, you'll be able to listen to the rest of the slides. We'll miss you.
What are some dramas, like problems with the character that could be, like, bad for the game?
Oh, okay.
Like, maybe a scaredy cat player who just doesn't involve anything because they're always, like, taking points for getting out of conflicts. Do you think that could be, like, redeemed or something?
I think an aspect that like kind of causes a character to not engage. Yeah, it could be problematic, I guess, on some level because they're taking points and then they're just not doing anything. But like, you can compel other aspects to kind of force them back into the scene. You can put obstacles in their way so that they can't really leave. So like, you can tag I'm a coward. And self-compel it and get some points out of it, and like describe your character leaving, but that doesn't mean they necessarily get out. There could be a conflict in the way. So like, I don't think, I would say there are certain kinds of games where that kind of character would be a big headache. But I think that Fate is not a game where that's a big problem. As long as the player doesn't get too upset about there being obstacles in their way. And that's an in-character, out-of-character thing, and that's kind of a whatever. But as a strictly speaking, it's on the sheet, and this is a pretty normal character player. I think those things are fine, just as long as you kind of find ways to get in the way of that behavior.
It's just an example. Is there like other problems, maybe?
Other aspects that would be problems? This kind of comes down to like where your lines and veils are, or your level sheets are. So if you have an aspect that's like particularly horny, then that might encourage a certain kind of player to kind of step over some boundaries. But again, like you can mitigate those with compels. You can mitigate those with other conflicts in the way. And if you've got like strong veils, you've got strong beat sheets, that's not it, level sheets. I think you can just pull them aside. Like if there's a problem with aspects on the table, on the character sheet, not really. Can there be problems with the player's connection to those? Maybe.
Oh, yes. Minotaur has a really good question. I've got a good answer for it too.
Yeah. How do you play a lazy character in this fantasy adventure without pissing off all of your friends? Actually, a similar question.
Yeah. So here's a really good one, and it's something that's kind of unique to Fate, or at least the way that aspects work in Fate. It's a unique thing.
Doc, thank you so much. We will have a full recording of this later. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But anyway, it's one of the unique aspects of Fate.
An aspect of aspects.
Yeah. In that you can do that. Like you can play a character who's lazy.
Yeah.
And you can just basically compel over and over. You can self-compel and sort of avert conflict and crisis. The trick is you're going to get fate points every time you do that. Give them away. Like if you are known for tossing your fate points to friends to invoke aspects for them to help them achieve and succeed and be awesome whenever they need to, they're going to love that, and they know where those fate points came from because they're going to see you in compelling all the time. So your character who is like, okay, you guys are going to the shop to talk about equipment or whatever. I'm not gonna. I'm lazy. I'm lazy. I'm going to take that fate point, and then later on, I'm going to give it to you when you're busting down the door and you're a couple points short.
Right. Joe mentions, plus you don't have to do anything to create aspects. You can perceive stuff. You can know what stuff is. And as a player, you can create an aspect even if you're not on the scene.
Yeah. You can do the create advantage action.
You can build to the story without being there.
Yeah, like depends on the specifics of the way that you're playing and who you're playing with and stuff. By default, there's like sort of two approaches to that. One is the create advantage action, one of which is the spend a fate point to create a scene element.
I'm going to talk about that more later too.
Yeah, so. But I don't know. I think that depending on your group, you might come to the agreement that everyone can just fucking make shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanna give you a literary example specifically of the lazy character who's still deeply involved. Okay. Sherlock Holmes. You guys know the basics of Sherlock Holmes. He's a detective. He's super smart.
That's right.
He's not as smart as his brother. His brother Mycroft Holmes is smarter than him. He's better than him.
It's actually Minecraft Holmes.
Minecraft Holmes. That's right.
In the original Swedish.
In the original Swedish.
Oh my god.
Yep. Minecraft Holmes works for like the state, like he's a high muckety muck, and he is lazy as shit. He does not leave his office for nobody know how, but he is occasionally involved in Sherlock Holmes stories and extended fiction too, because he compels Sherlock's like ego.
Yeah.
He'll contact his brother, say, hey, here's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you can't solve this, and I bet I can without even leaving my office.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening there is, to break it down in the system, the character is getting a bit of information to start a scenario, to start an adventure. They're self-compelling their own laziness and gaining a fate point. And then immediately they are turning around and compelling Sherlock's weakness and handing that fate point over. And now Sherlock is bought in. He's got to do this adventure now because he's got to prove it to his brother that he can figure it out too.
That's right.
And that fate point has moved from Minecraft. God damn it, Glenn. Has moved from Mycroft back to Holmes. And like that's it. That's in the fiction. That's right there. So playing a lazy character, go for it. Playing a character who is in a wheelchair, you can be as dynamic and involved as anybody else. Playing a character who is a shut-in, absolutely, that's not a problem. You can absolutely engage.
Yeah.
And there's no reason you can't.
Yeah. And the nature of aspects is that like you can you get to decide your involvement. Yeah. So for example, if you're playing a character in a wheelchair, you can just say fuck it. You don't need to worry about it. It just the game works the way the game works. You don't change anything. You can also use it as an aspect. You can contribute an aspect that will give you an opportunity to compel it whenever it becomes a hindrance, and you can get that fate point. You can also use it to invoke whenever it would be an advantage. You could also reflect it with a stunt that could contribute to the game in a meaningful way there. So there's a lot of different ways, and it's kind of funny to me because there's all of this discussion about like, oh, well, how do I have a wheelchair in D&D? What does that look like? Here's an 8-page PDF for it. Fate has that covered automatically.
And there's no judgment on it.
Yeah, like...
There's no... well, your character's kind of disabled.
Yeah.
And it's not even like in World of Darkness where you'd have like the point buys where it'd be like a...
Yeah, you have a disadvantage and it gives you more points so you get superpowers.
Yeah, that was always weird.
And condescending a little bit to me. Yeah.
But in Fate, you're in a wheelchair. That's just what you are.
Yeah, you just decide how that reflects in the game mechanics.
And you decide. If you say, look, the building that we're going into is handicap is
not ADA compliant. Yeah.
Well, I could say it is.
Oh, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
And unless there's a reason why it isn't, it is. I'm going in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're saying it isn't, give me a fate point.
Yeah, the thing is that that fate, the way that these things come up in Fate is assertively.
Yeah, Joe, thank you so much for hanging out for the stream. We will have it on YouTube later.
Absolutely.
Have a good night.
Okay. Yeah. So you have to engage assertively.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because whenever this discourse comes up, my first instinct is, why do you need that? Like, why can't you just use aspects? Oh, because they're talking about D&D.
We're talking about games that aren't fun.
They're talking about bad games. Yeah. So, yeah.
There we are. If you actually like D&D, that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
As if you're having
fun. You're allowed about liking bad games.
Have fun.
It's okay.
I don't care. Have fun. Who cares?
Your call.
Your call. Okay. So that's that.
Yeah.
That's that.
Yeah.
Francita, are you cool? Did you have any particular questions, especially about harm and getting taken out of scenes and all that junk?
I have a comment,
Yeah.
like it has happened to me like a lot that the D&D mindset just like I I think that consequences have to be physical, just like wounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I realized that that's not the case, but it's still like it's the D&D mindset is a disease that that we have to get over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that has been like something, but all in all, like I love Fate.
Yeah.
That is my main comment. I love Fate. It's great. I've migrated one of my games to Fate. I'm actually jamming 2 games, and one of them is I migrated it to Fate. The other one, and I'm going to do it next week, I think. So yeah, that is exciting.
And also, you ran a game of our home game of iHunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. So, next topic?
Yeah, okay. So
What's the next topic?
Moving right along. Okay.
I mean, I know because I can see the slide.
Yeah, okay. This is one of my favorite pictures on the internet. I just gotta say
It's a very good one.
Alright, stunts. To stunt or not to stunt? It's not much of a question. Okay. I'm going to come at this a little backwards, and I want you to have patience.
I'm imagining this picture not as someone making fried rice, but as like a fried rice mimic. Like it's like assaulting him and trying to bite him, and he doesn't quite know yet. Like this is the moment before he notices.
Yeah, he's looking over here, and it's like it's a surprise.
Yeah,
attack.
It's like a fried rice golem or whatever. Yeah.
So, fun story about this. That's not actually fried rice.
What is it?
It's styrofoam.
Oh.
The whole thing is one piece that he built specifically for this shot.
Oh, that's really cool.
Isn't that dope?
Good for him.
Yeah, there's a lot of funny shots of the kind of behind the scenes.
It kind of looks like a Rice Krispie treat.
I know. I want to eat it so bad.
Yeah.
I don't even care if it is styrofoam. I want to eat it.
Yeah, whatever. It's not any worse than anything else we eat.
But like the acting on the guy's face for like just like what? It's so good.
Yeah, that's like that's the expert version of like the way that Snoop Dogg raps.
Yeah.
Like he makes it look easy.
Yeah. Oh, you finished the scene! Hey! Please.
Fuck yeah!
Crowns in the chat for Francita, please.
Crowns
if you have them
in the chat.
Fried Rice Krispie treats. Yeah, I don't know. So stunts. Yeah, let me come at this a little backwards. When you're picking your character's stunts, the normal way to do it is to like look at your highest skill and pick one. That's fine. That's okay. There's no problem with that. My recommendation to you as a player, as you're making your character sheet, pick stunts or make them or request that they're made for you based on the specific things that you want to do to look cool in character. Okay? So, what that means is when you're picking your stunts for your character, and one of the stunts is guest on my stream, I want you to pick that stunt with the anticipation that you are going to be very social media minded, and you are absolutely going to regularly give out your skills to other characters. Like,
yeah.
That's a thing that you're so excited to do. Pick stunts that are like, damn, I want to do this. Even if they're not necessarily your highest skill. If there's like an outlier thing, like, I'm not necessarily very academic. However, trivia, I've got trivia handled. So maybe I don't take a very high academic score, but I do want to have that stunt that reflects my character just knows everything about for Quizzo. That's fine. It's okay. That's not a problem. It's not breaking the game to not go with your highest stat. The shorthand, the logical answer is pick your high skill, pick one of those. That's fine. But if there's something that's outside of those fields that it's something you want to see your character doing, do that. Because as a director, I instruct people very clearly, look at the player's stunts as a way of them telling you the cool thing that they want to do. And it's guidance for the director or the GM about the kinds of things that your character wants to look awesome doing.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's what I suggest for Oh, you don't got crowns.
I got crowns, no.
A single squished Trevor. That's good.
I had a subscription that was gifted to me, but I do not anymore.
Well, you can earn it with Trevor points.
But you can't pick the specific one. You get
second,
a random one.
There's a higher level one that lets you pick the specific one.
Oh, okay. I can do that.
Whatever.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Well, congratulations.
Congratulations, Francita.
Okay, you got it.
Can't wait to proof it tomorrow.
Yeah. I can't remember what I said. Okay, I think I actually.
You want me to
covered
click
that.
it?
Yeah, I think I covered what I
Bam.
said. Oh no, I didn't put them one at a time.
Yeah, you didn't. What the fuck?
Okay. Based stunts on what you want to look cool doing. I already said that. That's fine. If you don't really understand what a stunt does, talk to the director.
Yeah.
Right? And it's okay to push scenes in the direction of stunts you have.
That's right.
Because you are in narrative control. You are in the driver's seat. You are driving that farting van, my friends. And as long as you're driving it, you can pick the direction that it's headed.
Yeah. Look at it like a narrative funnel.
Yeah.
You can focus that stream into a much tighter, more focuster stream. Basically, you have a hammer. So, like, everything can be a nail. You just have to fucking make it that.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, as long as you're sharing the spotlight when it comes up, just go for it. Do it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Yeah, if your stunt is guest on my stream, and it's your favorite stunt in the whole game, and it's just the only one I can remember, so I keep mentioning it, just use it. Just use it all the time. Mm-hmm. It's fine. It's not a problem. If there's something you want your character to do with a stunt at character creation, later than character creation, but you don't really know how to make a stunt, ask your director. They will make you a custom stunt. That's allowed. I know in other games, making custom whatever is not allowed. In Fate, it's allowed. Make it. It's fine. Make one yourself, pitch it to the GM, and see if they're cool with it. We have on our Patreon an article where I wrote about how to make kink stunts, and you can actually use those as individual stunts too.
On the Fate SRD, there's a stunt generator.
On the Fate SRD, thank you very much, our friend Randy.
It's really good.
It's super good.
It's
you can
cool.
generate it, and like it's like randomized, right?
It's randomized, and the cool thing about it is that you can reskin it, just by like sort of changing what skill it is or whatever. You can come up with something for your character. It's a nice little like sort of oblique strategy for making cool things for your character if you are hitting a creative bump.
And if you're not sure if your stunt applies, ask. That's the director's job. That's your teammate's job. You know, everybody at the table is trying to make the best story possible. That's the job. And if you're looking at your character sheet and you're like, I still don't remember what this does, go ahead. That's fine. Somebody will help you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if they won't help you, don't play with those assholes. I don't know. Okay, so that's stunts.
Okay. All right, I'm going to click the next one.
Yeah.
Waka waka.
Make it compelling.
I get it.
You get it?
I get it.
You get it?
I think, because compelling is one of the things that you can do with aspects.
That's right. It's a thing that you can do with aspects. Do you know what does it do?
Fozzie Bear?
Yeah. No.
Tells bad jokes.
Yes. Okay. That's what Fozzie Bear does. Well, we've got that covered. Compelling is super good, guys. It's fine. It's a good thing to do. I know it seems like, well, it's the consequence in the game, so it must be bad, right? No, it's good. Because your character can't die unless you want them to.
And bumbling is fun.
Making mistakes is hilarious, and it makes for a good story. And when you fail, because you've chosen to fail, which is what compelling is, or accepting a compel is choosing to fail, that's like when the writer is like, guys, I was writing this chapter today, and I did the worst thing to my character. And it was so cool. Like, you'll see writers talk about stuff like that all the time. I'm really sorry, Molly. That's what compelling is. That's you as the writer of your character embracing the moment of weakness to make them stronger for later.
Yeah.
And making the situation and the scene more dramatic. So don't be afraid to compel. Don't be afraid of being compelled. It's dope. It's good. It's a good thing. Why are you getting compelled? So that's the thing that you got to ask yourself. Why are you getting compelled? Well,
because someone was wrong on the internet.
Liv just defined her drama without actually stating it. There you go. You are getting compelled because your aspect is your trouble aspect is extremely online.
Yeah.
And you just tweeted out about not giving your daughter instructions on how to open a can.
Oh.
And you definitely overdid it, and too many people noticed it, and now they're digging through your internet history for all the shit
And the GM was like, hey, you want to take this compel? Would you like to tweet through it?
Would you like
and
to
he was like, fuck yeah, I'll take that fate point.
Tweet through it is definitely the response to a compel. And I mean, like, that's ultimately what it is, right? Every character and every human being has that instinct. Oh God, it's not to get too gross too quickly, but there's an old bit by who's the 7 words you can't say on TV?
George Carlin.
George Carlin talks about picking scabs,
and
it's so gross, but it's so true. That's what compelling is. It's recognizing that there's a lizard brain in all characters, probably, and that there are going to instinctively, there's some triggers, there are some things that are going to make them make the wrong choice in a given situation rather than the right choice.
Yeah.
And you are getting compelled because there's an opportunity for your character to make the wrong choice and make the scene more interesting. So it's a good thing. That's why you're getting compelled. Nobody's punishing you. It's not the GM trying to fuck you over so you don't look cool. It is an opportunity for your character to make a wrong choice in a cool way.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when I used to play other games like World of Darkness, like D&D and stuff. I a lot of times liked to have sort of weaknesses baked into my characters, and like failings and faults and stuff.
Me too.
But I always hated that, like, when I would bring them up at the table, I would have to feel guilty about it.
Yeah, because you weren't playing optimally.
Yeah, because the goal was to overcome this specific thing. Like, it was to get treasure, it was to kill the prince, or whatever it was. And anytime I leaned into my character weaknesses, that inhibited the rest of the group because it basically gave a gleeful GM the opportunity to fuck me.
Yeah.
And like that sort of that mentality, that antagonistic mentality is the opposite of what compels are supposed to do.
Right. And it's not giving the DM or the player the tools to kind of out of character revel in these moments of weakness.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that compelling does is it is a reward for making a bad choice to make the character more interesting.
Yeah.
The other side of that play style problem is you'll have somebody who has no mechanical boundaries for character weaknesses. So they'll come to a table with a character who is a mess.
Yeah.
And like there are ways to play a character who is a complete mess, believe me. That it's still a functional part of the game. But if there's not a kind of reward system, a carrot and stick, so to speak, for character weaknesses, then there's a certain kind of player who will bring just a sad sack of misery and drop it as a character in the middle of your game, and it gets in the way of everything.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're doing anything wrong, they're just trying to explore a character that has a lot of issues. But there's no mechanical limit, there's no sitting limit, so they're never confident in when should I get in the way and when should I just roll with the punches. You know, when are my problems so much that they're in the way, and when are they just the background of the character?
Yeah.
Compels give you that boundary so that you can play a garbage fire every day of the week if you want a game of Fate, but you won't really be dragging too much gravity towards your character any more than any other character at the table, assuming your GM is doing their job.
Yeah. Yeah. I am a disaster buy, and I will choose when I want to take those fate points.
Right, and it's not every time.
Yeah.
It's plenty of times, right? Okay, cool. So, what are the benefits of getting compelled?
Well, I think we just talked about that, actually.
We did. We talked about it in a couple of ways. One of the benefits, of course, is you get a fate point for being compelled.
Yeah, if you accept the compel.
If you accept the compel. A benefit of getting compelled and not accepting it is that it gets some of your extra fate points away, so you have to find ways to earn them again.
Yeah.
It's also beneficial to reject a compel because that's also a really strong character moment.
Yeah.
Because that's the moment when you're saying, no, I will have my shit together enough this one time.
Yeah, this is my line.
Yeah.
This is how far it goes.
And that's telling. That makes a statement.
It's
that's
assertive.
That's the I'm playing a character who's a functionally alcoholic or whatever, or maybe not so functional alcoholic, and this is the time I am not taking that aspect. I am not drinking today, and that is a gorgeous moment.
Yeah.
That could be really, really powerful.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So that's that. Those are the benefits. Accepting a compel. Like
just pretty much do it unless you have a reason not to.
Unless it's that real dramatic moment. This is the one time I'm not drinking, like I just described. This is the one time I'm not giving into my lizard brain. That should be a pretty powerful moment. So you don't want to do it very often.
Yeah.
And remember, you lose a fate point when you do that.
Yeah.
So if you're rejecting a compel, you're not only not gaining anything, but you're losing something.
Yeah.
So you don't only do that if that's worthwhile to you.
Yeah, because that's -2 to hitting a guy in the face later.
And you never know. You might really need that. So
you always need that.
Yeah. So that's cool. Except pretty much every time. It's good for you. Please compel yourself. If you are the kind of player who naturally builds a character with problems, and you are playing that character, if you're playing the character sheet as written, you should be doing things that are unbeneficial to your character. You should be drinking sometimes. And you should be doing these things. I keep going back to drinking because it's an easy one. Anger issues, right? If you're playing a character who's got some anger issues, you should be playing a character who has some anger issues, generally speaking.
Yeah.
The thing is, when it gets in the way, when it causes a problem for you, your GM might not remember because they've got 4 other characters that they're paying attention to, or they don't really know the motivations behind you making that character choice. You can go, hey, I'm doing this because my character has anger issues. It's right there on the sheet. That's a self-compel. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. So when are you self-compelling? When your character flaws are getting in the way, and you're role-playing that.
Yeah.
And do it. By all means, do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it so much time that you're in the way, but that's true of any of these things.
Yeah, don't suck up all the air, but just do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Next.
Reverse causality in the fate economy. I was very proud of myself for that.
Oh, yeah. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So the thing is, you can decide afterwards that you have compelled one of your negative aspects. What does that mean? That means my character has anger issues, and we are going through a scene, and one of the NPCs is very cold to my character, and that being cold to my character gets up and gets in our way. Afterwards, after the scene even, I say to the director, do you mind? I think that the reason that character is so cold to me is because of my anger issues. I've had a fight with them before.
Yeah.
And now I've built background going forward and backwards. I get a fate point. It's fine.
Yeah.
You can compel a problem even after the scene. It's fine.
Yeah.
As long as you're just kind of like saying, look, basically what a compel is saying, I'm role playing my character well.
Yeah.
Give me a reward. It's a big gold sticker for playing your character well.
It's also really good to make you look smart.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, so my point of reference that I always go back to with this particular thing is Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
In a good Edgar Wright movie, like Hot Fuzz is the best example because as far as I'm concerned, it's the best written movie script. As far as comedy goes, it's the best written movie script because it's just rapid, fast-paced call back to other jokes. There's not a single joke that doesn't have repeat impact that has value for repeat viewings. Now, that's very hard. It took years to write that script, and it took a degree of craftsmanship that most games will never even approach because you can't. It takes years. You play Thursday night. That's what you got. You got Thursday night. You're improvising it. You cannot improvise Hot Fuzz.
No.
But what you can do is you can use that reverse causality of compels to call back to previous situations and to make for sure that everything is sort of tied back to the general themes, to the things that we've already referenced.
A damn fine approach to that, for example, is saying, play a character. Their trouble is they have a secret enemy, a secret nemesis, right? And that's such a fun one, because then basically anything that goes wrong afterwards, you can go, hey, is there any chance that that was partially the work of my secret nemesis?
Yep.
And the director can say no, or they can say, fuck yeah, it is, have a fate point.
Yes.
I think that's so much fun. There's so many fun ways to do that. And remember, compelling doesn't have to only be your trouble or drama. It can be anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
If your character is, for example, has a aspiring Jezebel as their character aspect, I don't know where that came from.
That's her character in our iHub
yeah.
game.
And Jezebel in reference to like wearing makeup and stuff. It's a biblical thing.
Not the website.
Not the website.
And
no.
not the juke joint variety that KMFDM sang about.
No, probably not. That's her main aspect. That's not a trouble aspect.
Yeah, it's
that's
a high
not,
concept.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be compelled. But Liv absolutely compelled it when there was an opportunity to jump into hell. And boy, did I take that compel, because it was fucking awesome.
It's not that it's not supposed to be compelled. It's just that you assume that the drama, that the trouble aspect is supposed to be.
Right.
But yeah, it was a high concept.
Any aspect can and should be compelled.
Yeah, and
if it gets in your way.
We got that edge. We got that double edge on it, and it worked really well.
If you wanna like more of a D&D kind of version of that, maybe you're playing like a paladin.
Yeah.
For some reason, and your paladin-like character is making choices that are getting in everyone's way because they are inherently benevolent, or they follow rules, the order of law, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just playing your character correctly, and it's what's in your head is a positive trait, but it is getting in the way, and it is restricting character choice, and maybe not making you look as cool as you want to look or whatever. That's a compel. There you go. You're good. Okay.
Okay, next slide.
All right, next slide. Your fate points are in your hand. Karl Marx, maybe. That's actually Engels. I couldn't find as cute a picture of Marx.
I don't think that's a Karl Marx quote.
I don't think you can prove that it's not. Have you heard every single word he's ever...
Don't do that, Mena.
You have not heard every word that he has ever uttered, so you don't know that he hasn't said that.
Oh my god, Mena, what did you do?
I compelled.
Yes, you did.
There's steam rising up out of her ears right now, y'all. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
I am angry.
You compelled being know-it-all.
I am outraged.
Uh-huh.
Somebody is wrong on the stream.
It's not even Marx, it's definitely Engels.
I know, it's Engels. That's right.
In his cute hat reading a book. He is reading so hard.
It's such a good movie too.
Yeah, young Karl Marx is very good. You have to see it later.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's a very good movie.
Everyone
should watch it.
Yes, I did. Have a fate point.
Yeah, I get a fate point.
Aspect. I built a time machine powered by spite. Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, that's a good one.
I'm like laughing so hard. I'm glad I'm not wearing mascara because I would be like streaking right now.
Oh my god, and Liv's face right now, even though I can't see her,
yeah.
I know she's making a face.
Yep.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Although I would say, yeah, Karl Marx definitely had a time machine because like all of the shit that he was saying is definitely happening.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There you go. So the fate points, they're in your hands. You are as much, if not more, in control of the fate economy than than anyone else is. So here's what do you do with fate points, other than like if they're a physical object, play with them at the table when it's not your turn.
Yeah, do not do fate points that are food.
Yeah,
don't use pretzels for fate points.
I did make a micro game that was specifically built around candy corns.
Oh yeah.
And moving candy corns or Halloween candy around a table, and you were kind of allowed to eat them, but like it was at your own risk. Anyway, don't do that. Don't make it out of food, but do play with them physically. If that helps you focus, whatever.
Yeah.
Here's what you actually do with them in the game, though. I think. Shit.
Ha! That's not how that was a bad segue.
That was a terrible segue. I totally forgot.
Okay. When do you use
candy corns aren't food?
When do you use points? You use them to invoke aspects. Mm-hmm. You use them to compel other people.
Yeah.
So like bad guys and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You use them to power some really big stunts.
Yeah.
You use them to create scene elements. You use them to, in iHunt, you use them to imperil aspects, which is its own thing. So yeah, those are the things that you basically use fate points for.
Okay, all right. Well, those are some basics, and I'm going to break them down in specific. But the important thing to know that you are using fate points to control the story. You are using your fate point to take control of the narrative. You are making a bold statement. You are changing something. You are affecting reality. When you use a fate point, you are doing something dramatic to the narrative.
That's right.
So that's the high level versus the specific.
Yeah, okay, sure. So we go into the specific?
Yeah, go to the specific here. Yeah, you're using it to invoke an aspect.
Yeah, invokes.
And I keep wanting to use tag, but that's old language.
That's very old language. Damn it, Mena, don't use outdated fate.
Yeah. Get off my lawn. Yeah, invoking an aspect. If there is not invokes on an aspect already, which, maybe it's your character sheet, maybe it's an aspect already created by someone else, maybe it's one of the thematic elements that have been added to the scene by the director, but you spend a fate point, and now whatever is already true about the scene makes your role better. Because what's happening is you are tying your character to the existing events. And by doing that, you are making the story stronger, and so the story is more likely to follow your lead, right?
Yeah,
you're
making the story more coherent.
You're making the story more coherent, and that benefits your character, basically. Okay?
Yeah.
Did I go into motivational speaker territory? I'm sorry. Yeah.
Did you?
I kind of did.
I guess.
It sounds a little TED Talky now that I think about it backwards. So I expect absolutely no payment for this
because TED Talks don't pay.
Okay, anyway, next one. Maybe in a stunt. You might be spending a fate point in the course of using a stunt. Some stunts will require you spend a fate point, X happens. A very good example of that off the top of my head, if you were playing a member of the 66 kink in iHunt, you might be able to just kind of make a friend.
That's right.
You spend a fate point and you just know somebody. You know
people
exactly,
who know people.
You exactly know who to call in this situation, and they're there. They're available to you.
Yeah.
So that's you might use a fate point in a stunt.
Typically you use them in a stunt if the stunt is stronger than the default assumption of what a stunt can do.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way to look at it.
Yeah. Maybe it's an extra. We don't use extras in iHunt, so I don't know too much about them.
Well, we do use extras for one purpose: monsters.
Our extras for monsters, we call them features.
Features, gifts, and banes. And
for various and sundry things that a monster can do to you, they may have to spend their fate points to do it.
Yeah. Sometimes stunts or extras are things like something that's a mini character, like you have a special sword that has its own set of traits and stuff like that, and you need to use fate points to invoke or use it or whatever.
We'll talk about that too later.
Extras are a catch-all term though, so they're really hard to pin down. Every fate game has different takes on them.
Yeah. So that's that. Next up, rerolls. Okay, this is straight from the core book from the second book, whatever the condensed rules.
Oh, sure.
You can spend a fate point to reroll. Mathematically, I don't know how sturdy that actually is in play.
Mathematically, if you're using a normal fate dice roll, it's only worthwhile if you have a -2 or a minus, or sorry, if you have a -2, 3, or 4 on your roll, then you can use that. Otherwise, I would never do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of silly, and it's technically a part of the invoke action.
Yeah. Yeah, it is connected to that, but I was just separating it out here because I think a lot of players don't know that it's an option.
That's right.
And I think that the reason they don't know it's an option is because by and large it's not necessarily the best option.
Yeah.
You can use it if it'll make you feel better, and if you're playing with kids, if you're playing with younger players, or if you're playing with someone who is unbelievably bad at rolling dice, like say myself, have that in your back pocket as a reminder for them as a director or as another player, because sometimes the sometimes younger people will get very stressed out about the randomness of dice rolls.
Mm-hmm.
So the comfort of saying, look, if you need to, you can re-roll. That helps build confidence, and it makes them more willing to do daring choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you got to make for sure that they know, like if they roll a -1 or a 0, they probably should not do that. Because if they do the re-roll, then they're likely to get disappointed because they're statistically not very likely to have a better roll. Remember, fate rolls average to 0. So you don't want to re-roll on an average roll and have a chance of getting worse than that.
But if it's an important roll and you've rolled all negatives on your dice,
Do it.
do it.
Yeah.
I will note that the Shivering Tree in the chat made a Discourse, so you can click on that link and be very impressed, actually.
That is a wonderful Discourse.
Is that like in Blender or something? Because that looks 3D.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay, so you can use it for re-rolls. Keep that one in your back pocket. It's not that important. Adding a +2 to a roll's difficulty with aspects. This is another tagging to invoke thing. If I am making an aspect that's kind of like a defensive aspect, like I've literally built a wall, I can spend a fate point to boost the difficulty that overcoming that wall would be.
Yes. If they're overcoming a passive opposition.
Yeah.
If they are overcoming a contested opposition, then you really can just add it to your own roll.
Yeah.
That's most of the time what you're going to see in play.
Yeah, but that is an option available to you that maybe that people don't always remember.
Yeah.
Okay, you can compel another character. We know this.
Yeah.
The best example we came up with this evening already was probably the Sherlock Holmes, Mycroft Holmes dynamic.
Minecraft Holmes.
Minecraft Holmes, sure. See, I knew you were going to say some shit like that, which is why this is in here. I was preemptively punishing you with this. You understand? Yeah.
No.
I knew.
No.
Reverse causality.
No, you can't do that.
See.
You can't take credit for things that you absolutely did not do.
I can, and I can get a fate point for it.
No.
I can, and
This
I
is
can
not
get a
fate.
point.
This is real life.
Same difference.
No, IRL is not fate.
Yeah, anyway, so compelling another character, which is another thing that I was doing just now. I handed over one of my fate points to Liv to make her angry because it would benefit the stream because she's fun. Everybody thinks it's funny when she's pissed. Anyway. One more? There's one more. Creating a scene element. Okay. For example, in Flat Pack, I'm probably going to leave this out. I'm going to leave some of these out, or I'm going to make them a director thing. For a certain kind of player, we don't need this information. This is too much. Creating a scene element is different than creating an advantage, right? Creating a scene element is just saying, hey, there's a tree over there. I spent a fate point. The tree exists. I don't have to make any rolls. I just say it. It's now true. Right? The difference between creating a scene element that way or creating an advantage with some dice rolling is I have the chance of failing that if I'm rolling. But if I succeed at rolling to create an advantage, that advantage comes with invokes on it.
Yes.
So what that means is that thing. So now there's the okay, Bill spends a fate point and says there's a tree over there.
It just creates a tree.
It's a tree.
It's just a tree.
That aspect is on the table. It is true within the fiction. Cool.
Usually that's not an aspect.
Yeah. Well,
depends on the game.
Sure. You might make note of it. Whatever.
Yes.
However, if Ben rolls to create an advantage, he makes the dice happen. He says, okay, there's a tree, but it's on fire. So that's a different tree. There's one tree over there, who gives a shit. And there's a tree over there that's on fire. And it's got invokes on it. That means it's got almost like free fate points dangling off of it.
Yes.
And so I can invoke on that burning tree twice.
Yeah.
So it's beneficial to everybody. And so it's usable in play.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, if somebody says, I kind of want to create a scene element with the fate point, encourage them instead to create an advantage.
Yeah. Aspects are more fun.
Aspects are more fun.
Yeah.
They're more actionable. They feel like you should use them because there's the invokes on them, so that they're more likely to get used in play. Nothing wrong with creating a scene element, but it's not... I can see where it would be useful, but by and large, most of the time, you probably want to create an advantage instead.
In retrospect, if I was doing iHunt again,
Yeah.
I would just remove that entirely
Yeah.
and encourage the players to do scene elements as a part of play. And I basically, if they want to create something that means something in the story, then they create an advantage.
Mhm.
I would have just removed it entirely.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Not a big fan. I'm sure somebody could tell us why it would work out great, and it would probably work out great in that. But,
yeah, I've never seen it useful.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's the fate points are in your hands, Karl Marx. Aren't you impressed?
Oh, that's Wrench with a kibby.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So making friends with the fate fractal. This is literal. Okay. You can literally make your friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I mention this because it's a thing that people don't necessarily know per se, but in Fate, you can reflect anything with a character sheet. That's the Fate fractal. That's in the books. That's a real thing. I didn't make that up. Liv didn't make that up. That's a real thing.
No.
I guess we can make up whatever we want. We're game designers, but still.
Yeah, but it's in Fate Core.
It's in Fate Core. You can reflect anything with a character sheet. Anything can be a character.
Or parts of a character sheet.
Or parts of a character sheet. Yeah. You can have something that just has an aspect, a stress track, and that's it.
Yeah.
This
stick can have a stunt.
Right. Wow, I guess that's true. So you can...
What was that?
I heard me. That was me.
Oh, that was you.
That was me.
That was weird. I don't know why that was.
Doppelganger.
Yeah.
So you can make a friend. And for example, let's say your character has a very loyal raccoon.
Yeah.
That might be an aspect on the sheet. It might be a couple of things, but you can make that raccoon a full or partial character sheet. It's fine. Fun fact, Saber Eye says, as the director, I constantly forget that making scene elements is even a thing people can do. So when my players want to change the scene, it sounds like a scene aspect to me, and then that's what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly how I think it should be.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, can you click? I think I have little things. The Fate what now?
The Fate what now?
The Fate what now?
It's the Fate Fractal.
Yeah, okay. And so, one more time, what is the Fate Fractal?
The Fate Fractal is that anything can be represented with parts or the whole of a character's sheet.
Right.
The traits that are on a character, aspects, skills, stunts, extras, stress, consequences, they can all be applied to anything in the world in order to make it more interesting and dynamic.
And this is a thing that you as a player are empowered to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, not by default necessarily, but you should anyway.
Yeah, I mean, okay, sure.
Yeah, you have to understand that we come from Fate from a very player-centric point of view.
Yeah.
The Fate core rules are a little bit more conservative and a little bit more traditional, but we're telling you how to be better than that.
No offense.
No offense. No, I'm just saying, like,
Well, remember when the guys were writing Fate as a standalone, they're competing with a lot of big names games,
That's
so
right.
they have to create something that is a little bit more conservative in its approach, so that they can be the bridge between your D&Ds and your...
Also, that was 10 years
indie
ago.
games. Yeah.
Things have grown.
Things have
I think that if Ryan or Lenny or Fred or Rob were running Fate now, there are things that they would do differently.
Oh, you know they'll Fate Fractal that shit all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, so now we know what the Fate Fractal is. Can you give me an example of like a thing with a character sheet or part of a character sheet?
Yeah, sure. Have any of you seen the television show Supernatural? That's a thing, right? Have you seen it, Francita?
Never heard of it.
Okay,
Huh.
well,
Never.
it's a show about
You might like it.
two Bishi boys who go around, big Bishi boys who go around killing monsters. And their car, the Impala, is rooted in their history with their father, which is a huge part of the story.
Yeah.
And if I were doing Supernatural in a game of Fate, that car would damn near be a complete character. It would have consequences for when it fucks up.
Yeah.
It would have aspects to reflect the relationship with the dad, the music, the character's ability to keep it running.
Yeah.
It would have skills to reflect its usefulness in the hunt.
Yeah.
It would have stunts even. But yeah, so Supernatural, that's mine. The car, the Impala.
Minotaur, I think she was being sarcastic.
Its name is Baby.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I didn't either. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
That's good.
But it's the Impala as far as I'm concerned.
And actually,
No.
if you want some more focused rules on having a car as a character, you can check out our supplement,
The Road.
The Road, in which there's a whole system on building cars with.
It's basically teaching you to use the Fate Fractal to build a car.
That's not an accident. We did it on purpose.
Yeah, and the cool thing about the Fate Fractal is you can use it in a lot of different ways. Like, for example, if I were using, cars, Sam and Dean's car, the Impala, in Supernatural, I would build in one way, but
Christine.
But Christine, I was going to use relevant to Supernatural. Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi's recurring hero in a lot of their movies, the Classic.
The Classic, yep.
The Classic is a car that used to be, or it was Sam Raimi's when he was younger, and it has not worked in a very, very long time, but it has a cameo role in a lot of his movies. And I would reflect it completely differently as a character using the Fate Fractal than I would with the Supernatural car.
Yeah.
It is more of an icon, and its inclusion in the moments where it becomes big are different in relevance.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right, you want to click on the next one?
Yep.
Do
Maybe.
you want to actually do it though?
I did it.
Oh, making friends. Thank you.
Don't give me shit.
Does your character have an offstage boyfriend?
Now he does.
Does your character have a house husband?
Now he does.
Your character is very busy. Does your character have a best friend from high school that's like kind of their when they're in trouble emotionally they reach out to? Does your character have a therapist? Does your character have a really cool parent?
That's a cool idea.
Did I spell literally wrong?
No, I was just looking at on my Mac. The slides are visible on the touch screen.
That's cool.
That's really cool. I'll have to use that whenever we do conventions
Yeah.
once the pandemic ends.
Yes, the V card. So you can literally reflect NPCs that are important to your character with the Fate Fractal.
Absolutely.
Do it by all means. And
just jump them in. They only need the things that they need.
And, depending on how the game is played, you might need to spend a fate point to invoke them. You might need to kind of suggest to the character, the DM, that they're there. You can work it out. It's fine. Okay. So you can make friends, or, you can build a raccoon. You can have a raccoon that helps out.
Absolutely. Yes, Dewam, the one that he lost his virginity in.
Yes.
That's absolutely, and it's extremely relevant in many movies. That's right. But yeah.
What, Ash?
The Classic.
Yeah, Ash in the Classic, right?
No, well, I guess Ash did. Yeah, but so did Sam Raimi.
Oh, Sam Raimi lost. This is too much information. Click on the next thing. Things as characters. It's not just for GMs anymore. So another easier example, like the raccoon, is does your character have a drone? Does your character have a magical talking sword?
Yeah.
Does your character have a spooky house? These are all things that can be reflected with a character sheet or parts of a character sheet, and you can initiate these ideas.
Absolutely.
Please do. And if your GM is really upset about it, send them my way, and I'll help them work it out. It's fine.
The interesting thing about that is that it is also an assertive rule.
Yeah.
And it is a declarative rule, because the things that are on a character sheet for things that have been personified with a Fate Fractal, those things are an assertive statement about how this thing engages in the story. If, for example, you have this pet raccoon, and the raccoon has skills, it has stunts, and it has aspects, you can engage those aspects. But you will notice I did not mention that it has stress and consequences. This is to say that it cannot be targeted for harm, because we've decided that that's not the way that it engages. If we want to add stress and consequences to it at a later time, we have that discussion and we figure it out. But right now, that's not the way that we are playing with this thing, so it doesn't matter.
So if you want a character to have a friendly pet, but you don't want to deal with are they going to shoot the dog, you don't have to.
Yeah.
If you want to play a character who is the mom of a 4-year-old, but you don't want there to ever be kind of like targets on that 4-year-old, you're good to go. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's it for this one.
Yeah.
So we have about 10 minutes left. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah. If you have any questions, any things that you would like to know and or talk about with us for the next few minutes, that's fine. If you don't, we'll duck out. Don't be mean to the raccoon. That's right, Kitty Herder.
We would never.
And that's a reference we in our Home I Hunt game.
Raccoons don't believe in consequences. It's just canon.
That's right. They don't. They don't.
Why doesn't he take stress? Because he can't be stressed out, obviously.
Yeah. 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 So that's that. So.
No, nobody's gonna ask about the little tyke thing.
Oh, the bear guy and the little tyke.
Like, I'm just gonna put that on there, and y'all are just gonna like ignore it. That's good to know.
It's okay.
It's fine. You don't have to ask. It's fine.
Well, that's what's up, Tina?
You have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
So using the tree example you gave earlier with the burning tree and then just
Yeah.
a normal tree, would it be considered a dick move while you're like in a fighting scene, for example, to make like an advantage or an aspect?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say I want to run away, or like I want to bungee jump away out of a helicopter, but
Sure.
we haven't established already that there's any like suits for that.
Sure.
Can I like spend a fate point to do it while I'm like rolling to get ready for
Yeah.
it? Okay.
Yeah, you can do that. That's why it's there.
Yeah, I feel like there are certain circumstances where it'd be like, I don't want to just say yes, so why don't we call it a fate point and call it a day there?
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to say no, but I don't really have a good systematic way to say yes, so why don't you spend a fate point? And we'll say that that's cool. That can also be stuff with like, NPCs. Like, the creating a scene aspect could be my mom's calling. Oh, well, your mom is that fate fractaled character that we made earlier, but you want to bring her into the scene. I don't have a good way to do that, so why don't we just call it a fate point? And now the mom's involved in the scene.
Okay. So, other than quick cutting scenes, how do you keep track of all of them aspects?
Right. We
Well,
talked about this in GMing, and we talked about it a little bit here, but
I always get rid of them. Like typically, if an aspect doesn't have any free invokes on it, I tend to get rid of it because typically people only really compel and invoke their own aspects. Or the other character's aspects. So if there's aspects on the table, then I pretty much get rid of them. Like I get rid of them if they don't have any free invokes left. It's pretty simple. And also,
and remember, as a player, you want to use those invokes, so you want to help clear the table too.
Yeah.
It's not just for the GM to clear that table, you want to do it also.
Yeah. And this also depends physically how you're playing. If you're in front of a table and you're using index cards for fate point or for aspects, then as soon as it's flush of free invokes, you just fucking get rid of it. You just grab it and move it. If that's convenient to you to do physically, just do it. If you're doing it online, and it's like, I oftentimes find that whenever I'm playing online, it's a little harder to get rid of aspects because I have to like focus on it, click, right click, delete, or whatever, and that makes it a little bit more annoying, but I don't bother. Yeah, so that's basically how I do it. The other way is like, no, actually, that's it. Like that's literally it. I just cut scenes as quickly as I can, and that way anything that's not currently relevant I get rid of. But also I don't necessarily get rid of all aspects because sometimes we do we do establish them and hold on to them for a while. The style of game that I like to run, and it's very relevant to iHunt, is like full of things like research montages and prep work where you establish these aspects and they have free invokes and you build them up and you hold them and they're your stockpile that you use essentially as a weapon. And like they're how you overcome the end. And that's a big deal. But you try to whittle them down a little bit. You try to make for sure that there's not more than like one or two per player on the table at any given time.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the story gets bogged down and then you're just doing, micromanagement. That's a big deal.
Oh, no.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's amazing.
Sorry, not to totally disrupt the train of thought, but we saw the monster section of the next supplement.
Oh gosh.
And you don't get to see it until it comes out. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Oh.
Yep.
I love that.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Okay, well, you gotta get
Everyone needs to be on that fucking Patreon.
Oh my god.
Like Jesus, that's beautiful.
Rush out and get this book. I cannot stress enough.
I love the nameplates too. They look amazing.
Yeah, we're teasing. That's true. It appears to be some kind of mecha. Yeah, he's a bear guy. He's from the Gundam Build Fighter series.
Yeah, that's a bear guy San.
Yeah,
which is a
3.
custom model built from an ACK guy.
It's complicated, but it's okay. When I taught in Japan, sometimes I had to make really weird slideshows. And so in the course of making this slideshow, I ran across some of my weird old stuff for teaching English in Japan. And there it is.
Yeah. It's from Mobile Suit Gundam. Build Fighters.
Bear Guy San.
It's Bear Guy San.
And he is in a little text thing because I had to have him drive somewhere. Yeah.
which is fun because it's Bear Guy San, which is literally Bear Guy 3, but it's also Bear Guy San as in Mr. Bear Guy.
Yeah, Mr. Bear Guy. Our friend Bear Guy.
It's a pun. It's a silly, silly pun.
Yep. So that's where we're at with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to really get lost in those list of aspects. So that's why I think, like, if it's been used once or twice, if it's been invoked, just move it off the board. It's fine.
Yeah.
Other things.
Rainbow Sponge Lady. What's that?
What? Huh?
I don't know what that is.
What?
Is that Liv sounds like the Rainbow Sponge Lady. I don't know what that is.
I have no idea.
I figured I sounded like Vince, the slap chop guy.
You're gonna love my nuts?
Or the ShamWow guy. Yeah, you're gonna love my nuts.
Anyway, Bear Guy is friend.
Bear Guy is friend. Bear Guy is wonderful. So yeah, there we go. I think that's like we've got 3 minutes on the hour,
Yeah,
but
that's pretty much a wrap on
bam.
that.
End of show.
So what's up for us? What's going on?
What's going on for us?
Yeah.
Well, we are doing I don't know what we're doing. No, that's stupid. On Wednesday we are doing we're doing 60 or so %.
Hey.
And we're gonna have Nick Draconic on and talking about stuff, and we're gonna be making games.
What's the first game we're gonna make? Do you remember?
I don't fucking remember.
Oh, Jesus Christ. The first game we're
Why don't
going
you
to
check
make...
the list?
I don't need to check the list because I remember these things.
Oh, really? What is it?
It's going to be an homage to the late, great Flash game.
Oh, yeah. Because Flash just died. R.I.P. Flash.
R.I.P. Flash.
And so we're going to be doing a game that is an homage to the classic Flash games of when Flash games were classic. Basically, Newgrounds era.
How is that going to work?
And Stinko Man 20XT6.
That's right.
The best Flash game.
I have no idea how it's going to work, but just know that it is.
It's ironic.
You'll have to come next Wednesday to find out.
You'll have to come next Wednesday. That's right. That's 2 more days. Same
days.
Time, same channel.
Same bat
channel.
channel.
And I will talk extensively about Stinko Man 20XT6.
Whether we try to stop her or not.
You'd better not.
You cannot.
Because, strong bad references, I don't get to make enough of them.
That's so
basically. True. Francita, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, we just sent over some stuff, and you're wrapping that fucking zine, and I'm so excited to see everything all together tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, what the Catalyst?
Yeah, the Creator Catalyst project. Talk about that for a moment, because you have a new thing.
Okay. Yeah, we just selected our game for Cycle 3, which is going to be John 6 Van Wizards versus the Magocracy? I don't know how to pronounce that.
Yeah, Magocracy.
Okay.
That's not one you should just assume.
But it's Van Wizards.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we want to do that game, and we're totally going to do it and stuff. But if you know the basic thing of how the Creator Catalyst project works, is that the team, which is Brent, the editor, Hector, the artist, and me, the layout artist, we donate an amount of $450 in working hours, basically. And that allows us to do a certain page count of a game. Right now we are missing about like $300 for to do like the game as we want to do it. Hopefully have a little more art because we think that it will look better that way. If not, we will have to downscale a little bit. It's really not ideal, but yeah, that's where we are at right now. So if you can donate to the Creator Catalyst project.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put the thingy
You don't
right
need
She already did.
there.
Mina already got it.
Oh,
we can put it
yay!
twice.
Yeah, I mean, you put it in there again. I don't care. But... Yeah, no, it's in there. And basically, John's Van Wizards is going to be really fucking cool. And so you can help make that a thing.
Because I want to say it's Fate.
I think it's Fate.
I think it's Fate.
I can't remember, but I think so. Yeah. So it's really exciting. It's going to be a really good game. And John will be on next Wednesday, not 2 days from now, but a week from there, talking about Van Wizards and making fucking games.
Yeah.
John has been on our show before and was a delight, and hopefully will come back regularly.
One of the first people to stream iHunt, too.
Yeah.
And if you type how to, you will get a link to his video explaining the very basics of Fate. So that's the 101. Tonight was the 200 level class.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the test will be sent to you. I will expect you to sign into your Proctor system starting tomorrow at 10, where you will be harshly graded on everything that you heard tonight.
Okay.
That's not
Sounds
true.
good to me.
There's no test.
All right. So it's after 9 now.
Yeah.
We're gonna become pumpkins.
If you want a test, I'll make a test though. You just let me know.
Yeah. Grade me.
Grade me.
Yeah.
What?
It's a Simpsons
I'm not
reference.
comfortable with this.
Yeah, no, you don't have to, but I'm just saying if you want me to. Some people are like that. Me.
Um.
Oh. You want a certificate? I'll make a certificate. I don't care.
This got weird.
I miss teaching, guys. I miss teaching.
I didn't notice.
Can you guys not do your homework and give me an excuse?
Oh, okay.
That's
All right.
All right.
So I'm gonna drop the stream. Have a good night, everyone. Love every one of you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
It was really great.
Matane.
Matane.